Hello and welcome back to a brand new episode of the Pick a Side podcast. My name is Joel Moran and I'm here with Joe Dehls and John Tortorelli, and this is now episode 203. In this episode, we are going to give our NFL awards predictions, discuss the Packers wide receiver problem, how the Jets should handle Zach Wilson, talk about the Lakers extending LeBron, the odds Giannis becomes a Bull, and Knicks re-engage in Donovan Mitchell trade talks. Now, episode 203, as you guys can see right now, if you're not seeing or you're listening, John is on the show. Joel is on the show.
You guys are having
Drew,
me, man.
no problem. Drew is on vacation, and Riv has a basketball game today in his men's league.
Bro was on an exotic vacation. He was in Spain, not even some like regular Florida shit. So I'm gonna go to Spain. Him, his girl, parents.
Yeah, it's a pretty nice trip. Are you thinking about you're going to the Bahamas?
I am going to the Bahamas. Yeah, next month I got a wedding to go to. Nice resort, staying at for like a week. I'm gonna miss a Sunday of football. Hopefully the wedding's not on a Sunday because I'm gonna be in the room with Red Zone on. I'll be honest.
Yeah.
That Sunday in the Bahamas, I'm gonna be watching Red Zone.
It still feels weird not saying the Patreon names. I'm not gonna lie.
It does.
It takes such a big chunk of the introduction.
Yeah.
And not having it there, it definitely still feels weird.
And you got breathed before that too, right?
Or takes a deep breath like he's about to take something. But I've been in the Discord. I don't really think people mind too much, you know? I've been in the Discord every day. We've been chatting it up. If you want to join the Discord, join the Patreon. You'll get access to the Discord there. Been chopping up the NBA. You know what the issue has been? Riv has been obviously the person who's most consistent in the Discord. So he could just say whatever the hell he wants, and people would be like, oh, all right, whatever. Like, I go in there, and he's sometimes just spewing nonsense. I could be like, Riv, like, what are we talking about? He was saying he would take Vucevic over Rob Will. He was saying Ben Simmons is Rob Will with the bag. He was just in there just saying a whole bunch of nonsense. I'm like, oh, this is what you've been telling all of our Patreon members for this long?
Riv has a lot of fanboys in there.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I got to come in and be like, bro, like,
can
we be knowledgeable here?
They think he's the most knowledgeable one out of all of us, and it's kind of ridiculous in my opinion.
Sometimes he knows ball, other times he doesn't.
He tried to ratio me today, and it backfired on his ass.
What'd he say?
I put up a picture on Twitter, and one of the pictures is me looking down, and he was like, what are you looking down at? And I was like, the Bull seating. And then
I liked it.
It was a good one. And then he replied back with ratio, and he did not ratio my tweet. He thought he was going to get me.
He got you last time, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He got me bad last time.
Did he? What was that on again?
It was a tweet where I said the Steelers have 3 franchise quarterbacks because all of them played well in preseason. And he replied, and he was like, something's wrong with you, or like you're a sick man, and it did way more numbers in my original tweet.
God,
yeah. But now, I'm getting him back. I'm gonna start to win these competitions and wars.
These ratio
competitions. You gotta
competitions.
pick and choose the battles that you decide to ratio somebody in.
You do.
You have to pick and choose. You can't just. He got cocky. He got overconfident. That's why he did that. He should have knew that was a good response.
It was,
and that he was not gonna get a better response. Like his response was not going to be better.
He should have saw the reply and kept it pushing.
Yeah.
Go on someone else on the TL.
Exactly.
Or tweet about Steph Curry for the 3,000th time today.
But now he got ratioed.
Good.
Until the football season starts, just to update you guys, we are going to do a mixture of basketball and football on our shows. But once football season starts, we're going to record Tuesday, and that's going to be football only. And then we'll have a basketball only episode on either Friday or Saturday, one of those days. So let's get on to the first topic of the show, NFL awards predictions. Now, we can start off with the most well-renowned award in the NFL, the MVP. Mm-hmm. Aaron Rodgers has won twice, back-to-back. Now, who's going to win? Is he going to win again? Is it going to be a 3-time MVP? Is it going to be one of these young quarterbacks? Is it going to be Russell Wilson in Seattle?
Denver.
I don't know. Oh, in Denver.
Mm-hmm.
My fault.
Matt Ryan in Indy.
Matt Ryan in Indy. He's a good dark horse. Who's winning MVP this year, Joel? I'll start with you.
I have a lot of these. I have 2 options for. I have kind of an obvious pick, or I guess someone who's favored, you would say, and then a dark horse. The person I'm picking is going to be Justin Herbert. I think it's really going to come down between him and Josh Allen. I just think after this season, we're going to be looking at Justin Herbert, and he's going to be much closer to that Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes kind of tier than the previous tier of Lamar's and Matt Stafford's, right? I think after this season, he really is just one deep playoff run away from being arguably in that top 3. I think next year with Tom Brady retiring, Aaron Rodgers, back-to-back MVP, no doubt, losing Devontae Adams and the rest of these rookie receivers have not really been stepping up. I know Romeo Doubs has had his moments, but he's also had some bad moments in camp. where he's dropping balls. So if you're going to be struggling in camp and preseason with Aaron Rodgers, it's going to be hard for you to be on the field during the regular season. And I don't think Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins, Alan Lazard.
My fault.
We
I
good?
apologize.
He's just
We're
muted.
good.
Okay. I don't think Christian Watson, Alan Lazard, Sammy Watkins, these guys are going to do enough to have the stats for Rodgers to go back-to-back or even three-peat. So I think Herbert's going to be looked at, that top 3 competition. We know he has all the skill in the world to be able to be an MVP, all the arm talent. He's physical. He's athletic. He can make every throw on the field. My dark horse is going to be Trey Lance. I think it's a bit of a long shot. We did see Patrick Mahomes, year 2, first year starting, come out, light the world on fire. I don't think Trey Lance is going to get 50 touchdowns, but he's someone who I love the system he's in. I love the weapons he's in. He looked really good in the preseason. It's been up and down in camp, but I've always been in on Trey Lance. He has all the physical tools, so he's my dark horse.
Josh Allen. This is Buffalo's year where Allen can take that next step. And when you look at that schedule to start the year, they're in Los Angeles playing the Rams week 1. Then they're going to Tennessee. They're at home versus Tennessee. They're going to Miami the following week. Then they have Baltimore on the road. Then they got Pittsburgh and Kansas City. If the Bills start hot this year, just like we saw with Kyler Murray last year, fans are going to take off with that MVP propaganda. You're big on Gabriel Davis. Were you saying he was a breakout player? I'm trying.
He is going to get 1,000 yards receiving.
With Stephon, too?
Yeah, with Stephon.
Drunk.
Now you add in the little Dia Debo and Khalil Shakur, Jamison Crowder in the slot, James Cook, Dalvin's younger brother. We'll see what he can be in the backfield. I think for Josh Allen, if they come first place in the AFC this year, he is the clear front runner for MVP.
Who'd you call Diet Debo?
Khalil Shakur.
Oh, my God. Okay.
We'll
Yeah,
see.
he had a good preseason game, but Diet Debo seems a little nice for him
There's
at this point in his
he used to
career.
have courtesy, and we use that so many different
Okay.
guys. Brett Coleman made a video on that. That's how it spawned in my head. And then
Got you.
easily, like you said, Justin Herbert has all the talent in the world
Yeah.
to produce like crazy, but we just haven't seen the Chargers prove it yet. And until we do, I have Tom Brady number 2. Last year, I mean, he had arguably his most productive season, and he just turned 45.
You think Brady's has a better chance than Herbert?
I think they're going to win more games, and that plays a big
Okay.
role. But the Saints are a massive underdog in that division. It's not easy pickings.
I've low-key soured on the Bucs over the last couple of weeks. They've had a couple injuries to their interior offensive line, obviously losing Shaq Mason as well. Godwin, who knows if he's on track. Mike Evans had a hamstring injury. You bring in Julio, who's a B obviously last year. So I've soured a bit. I still think they'll win the division, but I've soured a little bit on them in terms of winning a ton of games. They'll still be in the playoffs. They'll still be a top 3 seed.
Not only that, but Tom Brady did just take a personal leave. And I think it's for family reasons. And that's now you have an injured offensive line. You have injured receivers. The chemistry is not going to be the same. So him missing time, I think, is
And a new head coach. You got Bulls there.
Exactly.
Also, the Mets' number 2 prospect, Brett Beatty, first at bat, 2-run home run.
Oh, nice.
Go.
My MVP is between 2 guys. And it's really tough between picking these guys because they're in the same draft class. It's Justin Herbert and Joe Burrow. I think one of these quarterbacks is going to win MVP. Because the Chargers made so much additions this offseason, they should be number 1 in the AFC. I think the Chargers should be the best team in the AFC record-wise. Their defense is stacked. Their offense last year was a top 5 offense in the NFL. And now you just needed to add to the defense, and they did that with Khalil Mack, Kyle Van Noy, Sebastian Joseph-Day, Bryce Callahan, J.C. Jackson. They extended Derwin James. They're going to be a problem. But something about this just tells me I can't bet against Joe Burrow. They just went to the Super Bowl. Everybody's calling it a fluke run. Joel called it a fluke run. But what you guys don't understand,
Can I use the word fluke?
and I think what people don't understand is that Joe Burrow is an upper echelon quarterback. And I don't mean in the tier with the Staffords. I mean he's in the tier. Well, he's going to be very soon in the tier with the Rodgers, with the
Don't you have him at
Bradys,
5?
with the Mahomes.
You have him
with
5.
the Allens.
He's already in there for you.
No, he's just a tick below. But I think he's going to get in there this upcoming season because he's going to win MVP. He's the number 1 overall pick. He's been to the Super Bowl. He's turned a dysfunctional franchise upside down.
For sure.
He has all his weapons. His offensive line is significantly better. That running game is going to be better too.
Mixon was great last year.
And I think Joe Burrow didn't start to get going until the second half of the season. Now that he's fully healthy, he's going to have a big time year. I think Joe Burrow's thrown for 40-plus touchdowns, 4,500 plus yards, 100 plus quarterback passer rating. He is going to be legitimately the best quarterback in the NFL, possibly next season.
Oh man, he hasn't been in camp either. He had to have surgery
on his hernia.
Yes, hernia. What?
I thought he had appendicitis
or something like that. I think it was
It
something.
was like a normal person surgery, not like a football injury kind of thing.
Yeah,
but he hasn't been in camp, huh?
You see him riding the cart around?
Yeah, he hasn't been in
appendix.
camp. Appendix. That's
it was
what it
a
was.
ruptured appendix.
Yeah, so I think it'll be fine. I don't think really missing out on camp's going to be huge for him. I'm surprised you didn't go Josh Allen. I was expecting you to go Josh Allen for sure. You've been big on Buffalo this offseason.
I think Josh Allen is one of those quarterbacks that in the regular season, he's a bit up and down. He's a great quarterback throughout the regular season, but this past season, the reason why people put him number 2 or number 1 was because of his playoff run, not because of his regular season. Joe Burrow had a better regular season. Justin Herbert had a better regular season. Tom Brady had a better regular season. Aaron Rodgers. Mahomes had a better regular season. Josh Allen, when you compare his regular season to other great quarterbacks, he's not on that level. The playoff run is what separated him, which is why I think that he's not going to be the MVP.
I have another question, though, for you. Continuity is such a big role in all of this. Look at Kansas City. I'm a Steeler fan. Throw them in there. They don't have a top-tier quarterback. With all the continuity and added weapons and a defense that will still be very much elite, I feel like this is the year where he can just add more refinement in his 5th season and take it to another level where he doesn't have a game like against the Steelers. He has 2 interceptions, and he's the reason why they kind of end up losing the game. There was a block punt in that.
The offensive line for Buffalo, I think, is nothing to write home about. I think the offensive line is something that is a real question mark. The running game is a real question mark.
Suspect.
So they are still...
Yeah. It's been for years, though, and they've gone over it.
The reason why Josh Allen's inconsistent in the regular season is because the Bills ask him to do everything. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have it easier. Like, the coaches don't make it easier for Josh Allen like they make it for Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay and Matt LaFleur in that system or Tom Brady in Tampa. It's not easy for Josh Allen. He's asked to make ridiculous 3rd and long throws, 1st and long throws. He's asked to throw it down the field. He's asked to be their leading rusher. He's asked to be everything for them, which is why I think there's more room for inconsistencies with Joe Burrow, I think, and Justin Herbert. They're in a much more stable offensive system that is going to allow them to be more consistent throughout the regular season.
But you like Joe Burrow to get MVP over Herbert?
I do.
Is he number 1?
I do,
okay.
and solely because of the weapons. I think.
I mean, the Chargers' weapons are great too.
Yeah,
they're not
great.
Jamar Chase and T. Higgins
or Tyler Boyd.
Yeah, to an
when
extent.
You combine them, I think.
Mike Williams and Keenan
Mixon
is pretty damn good too.
No, they are
and
good.
Eckler, who's probably the best pass catching back outside of CMC.
They are good, but I would have liked the Chargers to add a vertical threat. To their team. I think right now it's Mike Will, who's a jump ball receiver, but he doesn't threaten you with his speed, and Keenan Allen, who works the middle of the field. I think they could have used somebody to stretch out the field. Right now it's Jalen Guyton for them, and he makes some highlight plays, but they could have used somebody else in there. Now the next award, Offensive Player of the Year. And I'm not gonna lie, I have a feeling we're gonna have the same player for Offensive Player of the Year.
I think I might have the same player too.
What's your player?
You guys go first.
I'm going with Justin Jefferson.
I'm going with Justin Jefferson.
I am also going with Justin Jefferson.
Oh, he's not winning.
I think it's pretty easy that I just say Justin Jefferson because you look at the season Cooper Kupp just had with Kevin O'Connell in Minnesota. I think Jefferson is most likely going to go for 1,600 plus yards. Minnesota will be a playoff team, I believe. I think it's a pretty easy pick. I don't see a player who has a clearer path than Justin Jefferson to win Offensive Player of the Year.
Jonathan Taylor. Did Jonathan Taylor win last year? No.
Second.
Cup won last year.
Cooper Kupp won.
Jonathan Taylor, I think, is in the conversation as well. It's usually the quarterback never wins it. The quarterback wins MVP, and then the best receiver or running back wins Offensive Player of the Year. I do think Jefferson is in prime position to have a career year. I think he could lead the league in receiving yards and be right up there in receptions and touchdowns. So he just had 100-plus catches, 1,600 yards, and 10 touchdowns. And we're expecting him to take another leap now on an offense that's going to be more pass-heavy, more modern than Mike Zimmer and what he was running for years. He was a defensive coach, but just, his coaching staff that was underneath him. My dark horse, though, is going to be A.J. Brown. I think there were some people who, when the deal first went down, they just weren't sure because it was such a run-heavy offense, and you have Jalen Hurts, who people are unsure could be a franchise quarterback and be an elite passer. But I think the biggest takeaway, maybe in all of these games, were against the Jets, the Eagles win for the first series. They had 8 plays. They dropped back 8 times. They did not run the ball 1 time. Maybe I'm looking too into just one series in the first preseason game, but I think that tells you a lot about what this Eagles offense wants to do. I think they want to progress some more. I think they want to pass the ball more, not be looked at as this run-heavy team. Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, they're boys. They've been boys way before the NFL, even in college. I think going back to high school, and you might scoff at it at first, but we saw last season, Matt Stafford and Cooper Kupp became really good friends, and Cooper Kupp has an historic season. So I don't want to, it's funny to think about, but it's also like, if you were a quarterback and your best friend was one of the receivers, you're probably going to give him more looks than Devontae Smith, Dallas Goedert, or whoever else you want to throw in there. So I think the Eagles are going to be a more pass-heavy attack. Him and Hurts' connection, A.J. Brown and Hurts' connection, their relationship is going to go from off the field to on the field, and I think A.J. Brown's poised for a big season.
First off, with Justin Jefferson, I don't think we fully appreciated how special exactly he has been. Wide receivers in their first 2 seasons to have 2,500 yards. Randy Moss, OBJ, Justin Jefferson. Now, this next stat, keep in mind, this past season, he played all 17 games, had an additional one. Now, wide receivers in the first 2 seasons to have 3,000 yards. Justin Jefferson, and that is the list. Now, like you talked about, Kevin O'Connell's there to add flavor into the passing game, and he's going to be moving around whether it's in the slot or on the outside. And I just think overall, he's, like you said, you just hit the nail on the head. He's going to have an amazing season, in my opinion. But then the other player, too, is Jamar Chase. 1,600 or 1,400 yards in his first season.
1,600.
1,600. And with the connection he's built with Joe Burrow, I don't know if there's a way necessarily you can just game plan consistently take that away in year 2. I wouldn't be surprised if they have an even better season. That's a very high bar, 1,600 yards in year 2. And Joe Burrow, I mean, he, for me, was another dark horse MVP candidate for that very reason. That connection they have, it can be the very best in the NFL now that Devontae's out of Green Bay. And that's what's so dangerous about the Cincinnati offense. Joe Mixon still led them in total yards last season. You have the best number 2, arguably, in the entire AFC in T. Higgins. Tyler Boyd's an amazing number 3 working there as well. Unfortunately, they don't have Vontae anymore. That's disappointing.
1,455 yards. So he did have 1,455 yards. I think that's a good pick. I'm still going to go with Justin Jefferson, though. I think I don't even have a dark horse. I just have Jettas. Jonathan Taylor, I understand it. I can understand Derrick Henry as well. But I think just with running backs, if you're picking for an award, I tend to stay away just because it's such an injury-prone position.
Yeah.
Whereas receiver, I think I can count on these guys to stay more healthy. Defensive player of the year, I'm going with Micah Parsons. I'm going with Micah Parsons.
You have Micah too?
I have Micah Parsons
Damn,
as well.
so do I.
Second, he came second last year to TJ Watt. Micah, 13 sacks last year, 84 combined tackles. I think he's going to be Defensive Player of the Year. For somebody to come into the NFL the way he did and be dominant so fast, I think that's going to showcase more, and he's going to be the runaway Defensive Player of the Year next year.
His first year in the league was arguably the most versatile defender in the NFL. I think not only does Micah have the stats, the technique, and just the pure skill, but he also has that ability to jump off the screen, and someone who's not even a diehard football fan can point out Micah Parsons on defense and be like, that guy's special. There's very few players in the NFL that could do that, and we saw that year 1 from Micah. So I think he's only can continue that as long as he stays healthy. I think they'll probably even use him as a pass rusher even more this year than they did last year. He didn't drop back a ton, but enough to at least impact his numbers. I think if you have Micah Parsons, he should be rushing the passer damn near every play, unless you want to have some sort of stun or, bluff coverage where you want to drop him back. But it's really not a waste because he still is very athletic and can defend in terms of like pass protection or pass defense. But I think it's just a bit of a waste to not have him out there going after the quarterback almost every play.
Number one, Dan Quinn figured out how to use him last year. I think that's a huge thing. But let's keep in mind, he took a year off before his rookie season, and he's still one of the best rookie seasons for a defender of all time. And that right there speaks volumes. The fact he still finished second in Defensive Player of the Year at 21, 22 years old.
Yeah.
I think he's 23 now. That's just unheard of. And keep in mind, when he was taken 12th overall, a lot of people aren't sure about that pick just because of the fact he hadn't played a year, much like Jamar Chase. People thought he'd be rusty as a rookie. He had no rust almost, it felt like. And versatility is the word with him. I mean, that dude is special. And honestly, while I think TJ is going to be the most productive pass rusher again in the NFL for a third straight season, I have a hard time seeing voters giving him the award again, even if he is.
It's tough to do that. It's tough to go back to back.
He dropped because of his character concerns, too.
Yes.
And that was a major thing. Because I think with Micah, it was less about the taking a year off and more so about the reports that came out about him pre-draft and stuff. But nonetheless, like, The Cowboys got an absolute game changer at that pick. Now, comeback player of the year, I have two players on the same team for this award.
Let's hear it.
It's Jameis Winston or Michael Thomas. Those are my guys. I think Jameis Winston coming off his torn ACL. Last year, he was on pace to have a really great season. I think this year with the added offensive weapons, he's going to have the stats to back up a comeback player of the year case. And then Michael Thomas. He hasn't been healthy. He hasn't been himself in the last 2 seasons. If he can go for 1,200, 1,300 yards, he's easily the winner of this award. But then that begs the question, if Michael Thomas is ultra productive, that most likely means Jameis Winston is having a good season, which then means that as the quarterback, he's going to be favored in this award. So because that's why it's hard for me to pick Jameis or MT, but I'm going with either Jameis Winston or Michael Thomas.
I have MT as well, at least for the favorite. I also have a dark horse as well. I know people probably say I've been low on Michael Thomas over these last few months, but the only reason I've been low on him is I never know if he's going to play. Is he going to play week 1? Is he going to be on the field for 5 games, for 10 games, for no games? So these last few weeks, all the reports are saying that Michael Thomas is expected to be full go by week 1. Michael Thomas is full go by week 1. He's right back into that conversation as one of the better receivers in the NFL. I don't know if you could automatically put him up there in that top 5 with the Jettas, Cubs, Jamar Chases, all of those guys, Devontae Adams. But at the very minimum, he's around that top 15, even after taking a year and a half off, not being on the football field. My dark horse, though, is going to be Cam Akers. This is someone who in 2020, when he got the workload, the full backfield, the second half of the year, his breakout game was against the Patriots on Thursday Night Football. Sean McVay likes having a workhorse back. Now, Cam Akers and Henderson are both dealing with some soft tissue injuries. I don't think either of them are going to be playing in the preseason. But if Cam Akers is the Cam Akers we saw in 2020, and he has the whole backfield to himself on an explosive offense, on a team that's going to win a ton of games, he could rush for 1,200 yards. He could have 10 touchdowns and put up the numbers to win this award.
First off, with Jameis, I'm high on the Saints this year, but you're just going to ride that ship whether or not it sinks or sails. Because last year that was your pick as well, Jameis.
It was. He should have won it last year.
He played 5 games.
And I'm saying, if he stayed healthy, he would have won it.
Maybe.
Who won it? Dak or Joe Burrow won it. One of those.
Yeah, but his touchdown percentage was also just extremely unreal. Like, it wasn't going to happen,
You're so disrespectful.
It's true, bro. He had a game where he threw 20 passes at 5 touchdowns. Just unsustainable. That's what I'm looking for.
Well, my pick, I'm surprised this guy hasn't been mentioned, is Lamar Jackson. And this is coming from a Steeler fan.
You think he could win comeback player of the year?
And the reason why is the Ravens last year got off to a hot start, 5-1, and they missed the playoffs. I don't know if anyone really expected that coming in last year until the injuries started to pile up. Now we're going to get the running backs back and Tyler Lindenbaum, who to me is the best center prospect in the draft. The defense will be fully stocked up, but the corners coming back. I look at Lamar and his improvement as a passer in each of his first 4 seasons. Last year he did throw for a career high in yards per game, but 16 touchdowns to 13 interceptions. It doesn't look pretty on the box score. I think this year will be a year where he establishes himself yet again as an MVP caliber player, and I don't know if he'll be top 3 in the race, but to me, Lamar is top 7 quarterback, and every single week you have to account for his rushing ability no matter what. And while he continues to grow, it's just the type of player that's going to keep getting better and better, in my opinion. And for me, I think he's number 1, the number 2, Derrick Henry, just because that man last year, 107 yards a game, he's an absolute animal, and so long as he can stay healthy this year, he's going to maybe get 2,000 yards, we'll say.
Wow. He's going to get back to 2K?
If he can play all 17 games.
2K,
that's the big question mark with him. I'm actually under the assumption that Derrick Henry is going to miss some games next season.
This is the first year I'm a little weary of Henry just because 28 is really that age apex for running backs. Plus, he just had his first serious injury of his career. But you're right. If he's on the field and playing, even if he's not super efficient, like those last few games before he got hurt, he really wasn't that efficient. They were just giving him 28 touches, so he's going to get 100 yards, So as long as he's on the field, he's going to put up numbers.
One thing I'll say real quick. They didn't start giving the ball until his 3rd year, though. And
Correct,
so
yes.
This is really his 4th season as a bell cow. He missed,
But I think he played 4 years at Bama, didn't he?
It's a good question. Let me check.
I think he did.
Yeah, he is 28 years old. That's always 3 years.
Oh, he was at 3 years? Okay.
Yeah. And his first year there, he wasn't really much of a workhorse. 35 attempts his first season. So I have a lot of faith in King Henry. I think he could finish top 10 all time in rushing yards. I think.
Where's he at right now?
Right now he's like 20-something, I think.
Do you know how many yards away he is?
I'll look it up while you're going.
Offensive Rookie of the Year. I was going to pick between two running backs, Kenneth Walker and Breece Hall. Those are the easy ones, right? But I think that's a little bit too easy.
Okay.
And also, they're not the best. They're not the most ideal situations. Seattle, if Rashad Penny comes back, less touches for Kenneth. I think with the Jets, although Breece Hall I think is better than Mike Carter will get some touches in the backfield. I'm picking between two receivers, and I'm not picking between two highly touted, at least one of them receiver prospects. The first guy I'm going with is Chris Olave. I think Chris Olave is going to be a star in this league. I do. I think Chris Olave is going to be a star. He's going to have a fantastic rookie season. He's been dominating in camp against the Saints defense that is elite. And I'm not going to say dominating, but he's been doing very good in camp. And then today in joint practices, he went against Jair Alexander, and he did his thing against him. If he can do that, then Chris Olave, to me, at least from the reports that I've read, has proven himself as somebody that can be a star receiver in this league. And I think Chris Olave is winning offensive rookie of the year. And if it's not Chris Olave, it's got to be Alec Pierce. Alec Pierce is Matt Ryan's number 2 wide receiver. We've seen Matt Ryan with last year with Kyle Pitts. Have Kyle Pitts have one of the most productive rookie tight end seasons of all time.
Kyle Pitts and Alec Pierce aren't in the same universe
they're not
of
the
prospects.
Same level. I know they're not the same level of prospects, but Matt Ryan's going to make his life much easier. You have Michael Pittman there. Then there's not a solidified number 2. Paris Campbell's a slot, but he's always a concern to get hurt.
Oh, is he?
Yeah, he is.
Okay.
What do you mean? I never said he wasn't. But Alec Pierce is somebody who's a freak. He's 6'3", runs a 4.4, has really nice hands. This guy is going to have a fantastic rookie season.
What does fantastic mean for you?
I think he'll get anywhere
800?
between 700 to 1,000 yards. I think
solid.
it's possible. I think
that'd be the best number 2 the Colts have had in a long time.
I think most likely 700 to 900 yards, I think.
So you think MT, just going back to Olave, could put up that 1,300 yards and Olave still get his?
I think Olave, I think he still get his. I think he's going to be the number 2 behind
I agree.
MT. I don't think it's Jarvis Landry. I think it's Chris Olave. And knowing that Jameis likes to take shots down the field, Chris Olave is the perfect receiver for that type of play style, which is why I think those are the 2 guys I have as offensive rookie of the year.
Like you said, Breece Hall and Kenneth Walker are the easy ones. I do think Breece Hall is going to win this award. A running back hasn't won it since 2018. That was Saquon. The year before, I think Alvin Kamara won it. The last few years been receivers, quarterbacks. I think he's just really the most skilled person in this draft. I think Breece Hall, out of all the receivers, quarterbacks, and running backs, he's just the most skilled person at his position. I know Mike Carter is there, and he's going to get some work, but there's really only a handful of running backs who are true workhorses who get 80+% of all of the carries. Breece Hall is going to get more than enough to put up 1,000 total yards, get maybe 10 total touchdowns as well. I just think he's a really good prospect. But I want to talk about my dark horse. My dark horse is going to be Sky Moore, wide receiver from the Kansas City Chiefs. This was a guy who I was a bit higher on coming out of the draft. I just think he has all the tools to be able to be a wide receiver 1. I know he's only 5'10", but at the end of the day, I think all of his other skills make up for it. I think for his size, he's physical. He has the speed. He's quick. He has great hands, good route running. So I think all of those physical tools make up for his lack of height. And even 5'10" is still enough to be able to contribute in this league. He's looked really good in camp, looked really good in the preseason. He had a great toe tap in the game, their first game, wherever they played. And Mahomes has been looking for him. He has the opportunity with just Juju and MVS there to be the number 1 wide receiver. McCole Hardman got hurt today as well. We know Kelsey's going to be the number 1 receiver, but in terms of having a year, Kelsey could put up his numbers, and Sky Moore could still put up 1,000 yards if he ends up being the number 1 receiver and the second most targeted player on the team.
So Derrick Henry, before I was saying he can finish top 10 rushing yards, he's 71st, not top 20. He's 6K away from the top 10 in the 10th spot.
6K is a lot.
It is a lot.
6K is a lot.
But he can cover that in like 4 seasons.
32. I was going to say, he's going to have to put up 1,500 yards, 30, 31, 30. Like, that's,
I look at guys like Jerome Bettis in that list, and I say Derrick Henry could be a part of that company.
Yeah. No, I know. But I just feel like the longevity is not there like it used to be.
That's fair. And they don't have an elite offensive line. So, my pick, Chris Olave. Whether or not Michael Thomas is healthy, to me, he reminds me a lot of another receiver in their division, Chris Godwin. he didn't run. I'm talking about not Chris Godwin now. Chris Olave, not because of the same first name. Comparing them, he didn't run the best 40 time, but he has elite game speed and a very good route runner. And I think for Jameis last year, Marquez Callaway had 700
Chris
yards
Olave
and
ran a
60.
great 40 time.
He did.
Yeah,
I thought it was relative to how fast he is in game.
he clocked in like 4.28.
Really, I thought it was like a 4.5.
The unofficial one.
The unofficial was crazy. The official was like 4.38 though.
Yeah,
it
I
was
thought it
still
was
good.
low.
He
Still
was
good.
still no.
Still
He
good.
was fast as he
Because
clocked
he
in
was a
fast
track
as
star.
hell.
He's
Yeah.
fast. I thought
He
it was
clocked in
lower
fast.
than. I feel like he's faster on film.
No, that was Traylon Burks who was.
Was it Traylon
He
Burks?
ran a 4.55.
Okay.
He's 6'2", 220. That's fine.
Yeah. But like I said before,
He's not as
Marquez.
fast as Alec Pierce.
He clocked in
that's the other
game
thing,
game time. Traylon Burks clocked in at 22 miles per hour. That was faster than Jonathan Taylor last year.
Oh, we're
On a
Oh,
side,
clocks are
Do your
wrong.
homework.
Clocks are probably wrong.
Okay. Casual.
Human error.
on a side note, you have Paris Campbell breaking out and Alec Pierce at the same time.
No,
And
I
Michael
think
Thomas
I think
and
Paris Campbell is just gonna have a pretty good season.
If he can stay healthy, I would
Yeah.
agree with you.
I don't think he's gonna be like this breakout, like oh my gosh, he's a top receiver. Like no, he's gonna have a very productive season.
Can he have a better year than Tyler Boyd?
No,
Can he have a better year than Corey Davis?
it's possible,
Okay.
but I'd say no.
All right, so we're looking at like the 50th best receiver in the league.
That's not that bad
Just
compared to
trolling.
where he's at right now.
No, I'm trolling.
And my second in command for offensive rookie of the year would be Drake London. When you look at the Atlanta offense, the way they're building it, whether it's Marcus Mariota or Desmond Ridder by the end of the season, they're basically just building a basketball team. Between him, Pitts, your boy Auden Tate, Brian Edwards is 6'3". There's so much size there. It's going to create constant mismatches for any defense on either side of the ball.
Yeah.
And I look at what Kyle Pitts did last year, he's going to be the number one there. And so long as Drake London is healthy, if you just throw it up for him, he'll be a go-getter. I wouldn't be surprised if he has 800, 900 yards, much like Kyle Pitts did last season, like half a dozen touchdowns. So I think that's a pretty safe bet, given the fact that USC you have top-end quarterback talent next to him.
He also he got injured the first week of the preseason. I know he's sitting out of camp this week. It doesn't sound too serious, but just something to keep an eye on. We're like 3 weeks away from the season, so he should be okay. Doesn't sound serious, but just something to look out on.
Defensive rookie of the year was something that was very hard for me to predict because I wanted to go maybe with one of the top edge rushers, whether it be Aiden or Kayvon. I wasn't super comfortable in doing so. George Karlaftis was very tempting, looking like the filet mignon. Maybe
Talking about
wanted to
another
get
man
George
being a piece of meat.
Karlaftis,
That's crazy.
but I couldn't quite put so much faith in Karlaftis. Then we talk about the corners, of course, Sauce on the Jets. But how often do corners win that award? Doesn't happen a lot.
Twice in the last decade. Marcus Peters in 2015 and Marshawn Lattimore in 2017.
Yeah, and I don't think Sauce is one of those corners that's going to get targeted a lot to where he's going to get so many interceptions.
Mm-hmm.
My guy's Jordan Davis, Philadelphia. I think Jordan Davis he's unguardable. He can't be double teamed. He's going to dominate in run defense. I think in passing snaps, he's also going to do pretty good because maybe he can rack up maybe 4 sacks for the year, 4 or 5 sacks as an interior player. That's pretty amazing. So I think that Jordan Davis is going to win Defensive Rookie of the Year. I think he'd be my favorite right now.
I was also torn between the top guys. Walker and Hutchinson both look good in their first preseason game, and out of camp, I've just heard good things from them, really. But I do think Jordan Davis, similar to we were talking about Micah Parsons, where you could just look at the screen and say, wow, that guy's different. I think Jordan Davis can have a lot of those moments in the interior, just straight up manhandling people, just being stronger than these grown-ass men, and he comes in the league at 21, 22 years old. He's going to have a lot of moments, you're right. I don't know if the numbers are going to be there, but I just think he's going to be someone everyone talks about, just being this dominant force right away. It might be hard because he doesn't have the full sack number, so a guy like Hutchinson or Trayvon or Jermaine Johnson or one of these other edge rushers who might have more opportunities on the edge compared to the interior. But I think Jordan Davis can have a really impressive rookie year.
Quay Walker's also a sleeper pick.
That right there is one of my 3 candidates. I'm going with Aiden Hutchinson. I initially thought Trayvon Walker, but I don't think he's a productive enough pass rusher, right, or just a capable enough one right now. But I think in terms of just putting up sacks on the edge, Aiden Hutchinson this year, I wouldn't be surprised if he has 8. And you're saying with Jordan Davis, I think he's going to be an absolute wrecking ball. That defensive line is insane, but I'm not sure if the production will be anywhere near what it can be for a Derek Stingley, let's say, if teams are targeting him with his ball skills so long as he is healthy. That, to me, is one of the top 3 options. But I think with Hutchinson in Detroit, there is a little bit of a little moxie there. I have a good feeling about him coming into the league. I like him a lot. So I feel like if there's any pass rusher that will win it, the last 3 years it's been a pass rusher, I think it would be Aiden Hutchinson.
And on to the last award, Coach of the Year. Now, I may have given a sneak peek earlier. I think the Chargers are going to be the best team in the AFC, which means Brandon Staley will be the Coach of the Year. I have Brandon Staley winning Coach of the Year.
It's interesting.
I'm going with Kyle Shanahan. Hasn't won it yet. Someone that everyone regards as one of the best head coaches in the league. And similar to the Bucs, the Rams are a team I'm not souring on, but a little nervous about Matt Stafford and his elbow injury. If he's not 100% or if he's not able to go, the 49ers have a chance to get off to a hot start. If he's able to prove Trey Lance is the franchise quarterback, and as long as their offense looks like it always has, which I'm sure it will, the defense being healthy, if they could be the division champs, get a number 1-2 seed, upset the Rams, who everyone's kind of expecting to win that division again, I think Shanahan has a good chance. Also, my dark horse, though, is going to be Kevin O'Connell of the Vikings. I don't know if you were going to go with him, but that's my dark horse.
There are a lot of fun plays here, like Dennis Allen in New Orleans if they make the playoffs. I'm a little bit disappointed. I wanted to go with Frank Reich, and you didn't. I am going with Frank Reich because he's the most underrated coach in football, and quite honestly...
Do you think he is?
Yeah, I do think he is.
I feel like Frank Reich has almost gotten... He's a good coach, so
don't
take this the wrong way.
He just got Doug Peterson a job in Jacksonville. Without him, I don't know if he's
You're not
coaching
wrong,
still.
But I feel like everyone says how great of a head coach Frank Reich has, and it's probably because the Colts just haven't gotten the quarterback right yet. Just, nothing in the playoffs yet.
The guy came on. He only had 1 year with Andrew Luck.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
He started 0-5.
Then he had Rivers, and
But Luck was able to figure it out and had maybe his best season his last year. You finally have the quarterback in Indianapolis. They're going to be a playoff team. To me, I don't think they're going to be number 1 seed. I think the Bills will be, though they have an insanely tough schedule. Buffalo, I have a lot of faith in them this year. I do think the Colts will win the AFC South rather easily. I think their floor may be a little bit lower than Tennessee, but I have them winning it, and they're going to be a top 2 or 3 seed to me.
You think so?
And I'm hoping this is a year where some respect is just put on Frank Reich's name, because Indianapolis is getting up there, Kansas City and Pittsburgh, and even New England, of course, with Bill Belichick is some of the most stable organizations. You had the consistency, you had the continuity everywhere except for the quarterback spot.
So top 2 or 3 seeds. So you got Buffalo, I know, right? You think they could have a better record than the Chargers?
Yeah. Yes, easily.
Jesus Christ.
Without a doubt.
The Chiefs?
I have them in the same ballpark, but I have the Chiefs.
The Bengals?
I have them in the same ballpark as well.
Who are we taking here? You have them as a top 2, 3.
I had the Chiefs win their division.
I know, but
Bengals.
As a top 2, 3 seed, I want to know who are those, who are that you have them over?
I think the Bengals have a tougher schedule this year, and there's some regression. Because like you're talking about last year, maybe a little bit of regression to the mean.
Listen, I think Baltimore's winning the division. I think Baltimore has a better chance of having it.
Team than the Colts.
The Colts are a better team than the Colts?
The Colts are a better team than the Ravens.
Maybe. Disagree.
AFC North
got a more versatile quarterback.
AFC North football is war of attrition.
Yes.
Every single season.
It's true.
Doesn't matter who you think is going to be the winner. Because last year, everyone had Cleveland. So many of them had Cleveland going to the Super Bowl. Did they make the playoffs last year? No.
But also,
you're right about this, though. The Colts did find the quarterback in Matt Ryan.
Yeah, for a year or two, probably. Like a guy who's not going to lose you games. Not going to be Carson Wentz.
We've seen a guy right now playing until he's 45.
Tom Brady. We don't compare anyone to Tom Brady.
Matt Ryan.
We're not comparing Matt Ryan to Tom Brady, bro.
If Tom Brady can play until 45,
no,
Matt Ryan can play until 41 at least.
Stop.
41?
Stop. No. He can play in 41. He's going to be throwing 2,800 yards a game. I mean, a season.
2,800 yards a game.
Be impressive.
He might be Joe Flacco at 41. Not to put disrespect on his name.
That's a starting level quarterback according to
Robert Saleh.
Yeah. It's not bad.
Also, the AFC North is a war of attrition, but also this year, if Deshaun, it seems like they're gonna have a settlement between the NFLPA and the NFL and Deshaun Watson. So if he does take a deal and it's originally 6, I think the NFL wants a year. Let's say they just go with 10 games. Cleveland's out of it, and you got the Steelers, who I'm not that high on with Mitch or Kenny Pickett, whoever ends up starting. So to me, it's really just the Bengals and Ravens in that division. So I don't look at it as this gruesome, sure, the defenses and, just the physicality that's there. But I think overall, it's just going to be the Ravens and Bengals in the AFC North. But the AFC South, it's the Colts and maybe the Titans, and do the Jaguars take a step, but they're probably not going to be near the Colts.
I've got a question for you. Who were your 2 teams going into last year in 2021, the AFC North? that you're expecting to win. Your top 2 teams in the North.
Baltimore and probably Cleveland or Pittsburgh. Not Cincy, no way.
Yeah, no one had Cincinnati, and they won the division because of injuries. The year before 2020, who won the division? Wasn't Baltimore. It was Pittsburgh.
I don't think
They
so.
started off 11-0.
In 2020, they won
The
the division.
Bengals. No, I'm saying the
Steelers-
Bengals won a division because Joe Burrow showed how great of a quarterback he is.
The Bengals were
Jamar
the
Chase is
Bengals were
historically
8-3.
great.
I mean, the Ravens were 8-3, and they were the 1 seed before
I
Lamar got hurt.
understand that, but they're better than Cleveland because they're better than Cleveland. They're better than
Let's
the Steelers
let's
because
pump
they're
the
better
brakes a
than
little
Pittsburgh.
bit. Let's
They're-
pump
yeah,
the brakes
Steelers,
a
yes.
little bit.
Cincy,
They beat the Ravens twice, dominated them.
They dominated the Steelers as well. I mean, it wasn't even close. But a big reason
Mhm.
for that is because they ran all over those teams like the Steelers, because the Steelers were ravaged up front, and now they have reinforcements and better depth at those spots on their defense. So I think
They
this year,
passed on the Ravens.
you're talking about the Bengals.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking about the Steelers now. They
Okay.
ran all over the Steelers.
Well, the Steelers can get beat in multiple different ways. Joe Burrow's going to tear them apart regardless. But he had 900 total yards in 2 games versus the Ravens
they were
Yeah,
banged
last
up.
year.
They're
Where
playing
were the
third
Ravens
stringers.
corners?
Playing third stringers.
It doesn't matter. They still can't
Against a
guard.
team that
What
blitzes
do you
that
mean?
much, it doesn't matter.
Marlon Humphrey played. Jamar Chase did
But
the spin
Marcus
cycle,
Peters.
left him in the dust, embarrassed him.
Jamar had a
There's
good
Marcus
game.
Peters there. It's one of the best,
we
best
talking
corners
about?
in the game.
I do think Cincy's roster probably is better than Cleveland's. It's close, but they're probably good. Just because wide receiver, I just put so much emphasis on that, and having Jamar Chase and Higgins compared to Amari Cooper and really nobody, I would take that. Really puts it over the edge for me.
Recapping our NFL awards. These are NFL awards predictions for the 2022 NFL season. MVP Joe Burrow, Offensive Player of the Year Justin Jefferson, Defensive Player of the Year Micah Parsons, Comeback Player of the Year Jameis Winston, Offensive Rookie of the Year Chris Olave, Defensive Rookie of the Year Jordan Davis, and Coach of the Year Brandon Staley.
My MVP is going to be Justin Herbert, Offensive Player of the Year Justin Jefferson, Defensive Player of the Year Micah Parsons, Comeback Player of the Year Michael Thomas, Offensive Rookie of the Year Breece Hall, Defensive Rookie of the Year Aiden Hutchinson, Coach of the Year Kyle Shanahan.
My MVP is Josh Allen. My Offensive Player of the Year is Justin Jefferson. My Defensive Player of the Year is Micah Parsons. My Offensive Rookie of the Year is Chris Olave. My Defensive Rookie of the Year is Aiden Hutchinson. My Comeback Player of the Year is Lamar Jackson. My Coach of the Year is Frank Reich. And that's it.
Yep, that's it. Moving on, the Packers' wide receiver problems is kind of glaring to Aaron Rodgers, at least I think now. I think everybody thought this was going to be an issue, but Aaron Rodgers yesterday said the young guys, especially young receivers, we've got to be way more consistent, Rodgers said. A lot of drops, a lot of bad route decisions, running the wrong route. We've got to be better in that area. Now, Christian Watson is back in practice. Romeo Doubs is their 4th-round receiver they're raving about. So right now, the starting wide receivers for the Packers look like Allen Lazard, Randall Cobb, Sammy Watkins, and then you can add in the young guys like Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs onto there.
I think it's pronounced Dobbs.
Dobbs.
I think.
Romeo Doubs. Romeo Dobbs.
Let's call him Romeo.
Yep. Aaron Rodgers said that he believes Allen Lazard can be a number 1 wide receiver.
Feel bad for
That's
him.
what he said. Allen Lazard has had 513 yards last year and 8 touchdowns. So almost double-digit touchdowns. It's not bad. That's not horrible.
It's not.
That's not bad. So what do you think about the Packers wide receiver problems in another topic, subtopic in this, Jordan Love?
Jordan Love.
Because Jordan Love finally got the chance to play. He threw 3 interceptions, although
One
the
wasn't his fault.
the box score may have fooled you.
One.
Do you think there's still hope for Jordan Love in this Packers organization?
You want to start with the receivers or Jordan Love?
The receivers.
Receivers, I don't know why this is a news story. The second they traded Devontae Adams, everybody knew, not just us at this table, everybody in the league knew that they needed wide receiver help, right? You lose Devontae, and we already knew that underneath Tay in that depth chart, there wasn't much of anything. I'm not an Allen Lazard guy. You lose MVS to the Chiefs. You bring in Randall Cobb, who's not what he used to be, and you sign Sammy Watkins, draft Christian Watson, who I thought was a reach at 34, 35. Romeo Doubs has been a surprise of camp, someone that I don't think anyone was expecting to contribute right away in year 1. But he's been fantastic. They didn't do anything to fix it. You don't have any backup plan right now. You're relying on 2 rookies. That is a dangerous game if you're, especially Aaron Rodgers, a veteran quarterback who we saw just in the divisional game against the Niners. He threw it to 2 guys. It was Aaron Jones and it was Devontae Adams. Nobody else was even getting a look. I think their tight end got maybe 1 or 2 targets. So for Aaron Rodgers, you need to be usually a veteran and someone who is reliable, runs the right routes, catches the ball, like he said in this quote. Now you're relying on two rookies, one guy coming from the FCS. I'm not sure where Romeo Doubs went to school, but you have one guy coming from North Dakota State who wasn't on a pass-heavy offense. I think he had 800 yards this last season, his senior year. Now he's coming in and expecting a ton from one of the best quarterbacks in NFL history. You're asking a lot out of these rookie receivers. I just don't think anyone on this team is viable enough to be a number one option as of right now. I'm not really high on Christian Watson being a number one at any point in his career, truthfully. I think he could be a nice deep option, but not someone that you're going to be relying on. But moving on to Jordan Love, I think there was some good and some bad with Jordan Love here. I know you're the resident Jordan Love truther. You think he's going to be a franchise quarterback. I don't exactly see that. I went back, watched all of his throws in this preseason game. There's some good, there's some bad, right? I think he shows flashes with his mobility, arm strength. He has zip on the ball. He showed some touch, too, with the touchdown to Romeo Doubs. So there are some things that I see while watching film that I say, okay, this could translate. This could be good enough. But unfortunately for Love, I just don't see it consistently enough. I see times where he makes nice plays, and I see times where he misses a wide-open check-down route. That's not something, if you're a franchise guy, you could really afford to do. Talking about the 3 interceptions, one 100% wasn't his fault. He threw it right to the receiver, bounced off his chest, intercepted. I know both of you guys think the second interception wasn't his fault, where he kind of got the ball ripped out of his hands, but if you watch the play, it was terrible ball placement. It should have been closer to the sideline on the outside. Instead, the receiver had to readjust his body and catch it up here. He probably should have came down with it, but at the end of the day, if that's Aaron Rodgers on the field, that's a completion because he's going to put it in the right spot with better ball placement. I'm not expecting Love to be Aaron Rodgers, but I'm not exactly giving him the benefit of the doubt because it wasn't good ball placement.
I don't know, because Aaron Rodgers talked about how the young receivers are dropping balls in practice. So maybe
it's not a completion, but it's a drop. It's not an interception.
I mean, if he doesn't catch it, it bounces off his hands. If
it drops off his hands, it hits the floor unless it hits his foot and it bounces up or some weird shit. He did one thing I would say about him though. The touchdown I really liked Romeo Doubs. Right, he did show touch and a little bit of anticipation. The back shoulder throw, which was kind of back shoulder, was more of just the corner was caught lacking. Honestly, like it wasn't a typical back shoulder throw. Like it was kind of an underthrow. The guy went and got it. But regardless, I think he did show some good things. If he's not doing it consistently, he didn't push the ball down the field a lot. He hit an 8 out of 8.5. So it's not like he was consistently pushing the ball down the field. Jordan Love, we'll see what happens. To me, he doesn't do it consistently enough for me to believe that he's going to be a franchise guy.
He's not on the field consistently enough.
Even in the preseason, even in the couple games he starts, like during the season where Rodgers missed COVID or week 17, 18, it's never consistent enough, and it is hard if you don't get those reps consistently to be consistent on the field. You know what I mean? I want to see more in the preseason. This is going into year 3 of Jordan Love, right? You should be pretty damn good in the preseason at this point because basically this is all you play. I would expect a little bit more.
Was that his first preseason game? Because he was hurt last preseason.
No, it wasn't.
And then the year before, he didn't have it going to his rookie year.
He played in the preseason last year.
It was, maybe one game?
2.
2?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, starting off with the receivers, I'm going to start off there, I guess.
Yeah.
They're going to be playing their 11 best guys. They're going to be running a lot of double running back looks, and oftentimes this can be Allen Lazard, who's a great blocker, by the way.
Rodgers said that it's realistic that Dylan and Aaron Jones get 50 catches apiece.
Yeah, Dylan be, I don't know.
He's a good pass catcher.
Yeah. Okay.
Not as good as Aaron Jones, but he's solid.
50 is a lot. I think the big thing with the Packers that we're not really looking closely enough at is that defense, as they're continuing. I was not a big fan of the Quay Walker pick. I'm big on George Pickens. I know a lot of Packers fans have already heard a ton about that. They could have took Christian Watson in the first round and George Pickens with the pick they trade up to get in the second.
I never take Christian Watson, just take Pickens.
Watson has maybe one of the 3 highest ceilings in this draft, though.
Who?
Christian Watson. I have all the receivers I'm talking about.
I disagree.
Okay, there's a lot of receivers. We'll go 4 to 5. And there's a lot. That says a lot because there's George Pickens, Jameson Williams, Olave, all those players. I mean, he is right up there. But more specifically with this team, the defense is good enough to lead them in fall. And so their offense doesn't have to put up 30 points a game. What you're really looking for is an offense that will not be on film for the postseason because we don't care what the Packers are doing in September. We don't care what they're doing in October. What matters if you're going to ink Aaron Rodgers this massive extension, the last giant one I think he's going to get in his career before he retires, you're trying to win a Super Bowl. And so you want to get lightning in a bottle. You want to get that flash out in the season, much like the Bengals did last season, where it all just clicked to them going to the playoffs. They got a little bit of fortune with the opponents they're playing. the Packers don't have to be perfect the first 8 weeks of the season, but you just want to see the progression with, of course, Christian Watson and Romeo Doubs as the season goes on. The veterans are just there for protection because Rodgers has played with Allen Lazard for 3 seasons. Randall Cobb is the only reason why he's in there is because they've had that connection. And so they can hold you over until you get to the month of December. And I think that's really where the Packers will tell us whether or not this is a true Super Bowl contender or another year in Green Bay where they lose the 49ers in the playoffs.
I think there's a chance they sign Odell.
There's a chance.
He does every year at them, I feel like.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's not Odell, but it's some high name receiver like, oh, should the Packers
Will
go
Fuller?
and get them? Will Fuller?
No, I don't see it.
They need someone.
I think Green Bay is going to be fine. I think their problems at receiver are definitely evident, but I do think Allen Lazard is going to have a pretty good year.
Good.
I think he's going to have 1,000 yards.
Ooh.
You want to put a bet on that?
Let's
do it. It's been a minute.
I'll do it.
I'll take the under.
I think he is their number one receiver.
What are you
by
putting on
default.
this?
That's wild.
You could put $100 on it.
All right, I'm putting it in my notes, man.
All right, do it right now.
Let's.
Allen Lazard is their best receiver. Aaron Rodgers trusts him the most. I think Allen Lazard is going to be an 1,000-yard receiver for the Packers. I do. I think there's no doubt about it. And I think whoever comes up second is gonna be, a question mark. I don't believe in Sammy Watkins. I don't believe in Randall Cobb. I don't know about Christian Watson right now and the injuries he's been dealing with so far early in camp. I don't know about Romeo Doubs, whether or not he's going to be good right away. But I do know that Rodgers trusts 2 receivers that the Packers have right now, 2 receiving options, Allen Lazard and Robert Tonyan, who's coming back.
How much does he trust Allen Lazard? Because in the playoff game, he didn't trust Allen Lazard.
I think he trusts him enough to give him 8 touchdowns.
That's not 1,000 yards.
513 yards. Yeah, but, now he's going to be the X receiver in this offense, which means that he's going to be the main target, which means he's going to.
Someone has to get throwing the ball.
Yeah, and it's going to be him.
That's basically.
And
that's how I look at Allen Lazard. Somebody's got to get the ball in the offense.
But ultimately, I view Green Bay the same way I view the 2019 49ers, where that year their best receiver was Kendrick Bourne. And then they made a midseason trade to acquire Emmanuel Sanders. I do think Green Bay is going to acquire.
They still have Kittle.
Yeah, but I think Green Bay is going to acquire a receiver in the trade deadline. I don't know who it is going to be, but I think there's a possibility that happens. And as for Jordan Love, I still believe in him. Now, do I think he's going to be a top 5, top 10 quarterback? I don't think so, but I think he's going to be a good quarterback in this league. I think he's going to be a top 20 quarterback. I think he can be better than guys like Jimmy Garoppolo or,
Can he be better than Jalen Hurts?
Oh.
He can be just as good.
Okay.
He can be a little better. I do, and I think Jordan Love.
What has he shown that makes you think that?
Jordan Love is progressing at his own rate. And I think that.
What does that mean?
This is what I mean.
He's been the backup.
There are some quarterbacks in the NFL that failed in the NFL because they were thrown into the fire too quick. Now, had Jordan Love went to a team like, let's say the Raiders. Let's say they moved on from Derek Carr and they just said, Jordan Love, this is your franchise. Jordan Love would be considered a bust right now because I don't think he would have been ready to play. But him learning in Green Bay, I think is helping him develop. And, this year we're not going to see him play anyway. We're probably next year, maybe.
Probably not.
But really, you're there. This Jordan Love pick is a long-term development plan.
But you're going to have to pay him. This is year 3.
For
wait
what
another
team?
year, it's year 4. Now it's year 5. You have a 5th-year option. You have to pay him $25 million, $30 million for the year 5 option.
Plus.
I think Jordan Love is going to be a good quarterback.
Better than Jalen Hurts. I just don't know what he has shown because he's not on the field, and he's not progressing at his own rate, bro. He's been a backup. He doesn't have a choice. It's not like he's out there like competing for the starting job. He has no chance of starting.
All I know is that in that preseason game,
he didn't.
It's one of the more.
Stop.
It's probably one of the best performances I've seen from him.
He wasn't even the most impressive quarterback on the field.
Well, Trey Lance is good.
Trey Lance is really good.
But Jordan Love, he showed poise. He played some of the most poised football I've seen from him.
Oh my God, I could throw up.
I got a few questions for y'all. First off, for Aaron Rodgers, he was a backup his first 4 seasons, and it wasn't until really year 3, year 4 where he started to take off. But when you look at that 2020 class of quarterbacks, they always say, I've talked about this on my guys off the air, you have Joe Burrow, you have Justin Herbert. We know there's a massive hits at quarterback.
Yes.
Then you have Tua. You have Jordan Love. Some people had Jordan Love above Justin Herbert coming into the draft. That was not an uncommon belief back then. And then you have Jalen Hurts. out of those three quarterbacks in that latter half, Jordan Love, I can't say his last name, Tua, and Jalen Hurts, I only think one of those guys will hit. And honestly, I think it's going to be Jordan Love.
Well, I think Hurts and Tua have hit already.
Have they hit? Because you can replace
more
Tua
than
with,
Jordan Love.
In terms of like when I say hit, I mean a top 15 quarterback above average.
I think Hurts is 15 right now.
Oh,
Why?
you can
15 or I have 15. I have him 15 or 16.
Ooh,
I have him above guys like Tannehill.
He's not better than Tannehill right now.
I think he is.
He's just in a way better offensive system.
Yeah, he's going to put up better numbers with Tannehill next year.
'cause
Like
Tannehill's
Tannehill might be out of a job. Tannehill might not be a starter in 2023.
Tannehill's in a shit situation right now offensively.
But he doesn't do much to elevate guys around him or he doesn't have mobility too,
can
like Hurts does.
Elevate guys.
Let's see what he does with AJ Brown this year. Devontae Smith just had a great rookie season. In a run first offense.
Still,
he was.
We got to go over this real quick. Jalen Hurts or Dak Prescott?
Dak.
Jalen Hurts or
Stack easily.
Matt Ryan?
I have Matt Ryan one spot ahead of Jalen Hurts, but it's
there's
close.
a gap between them.
There's not much of a gap.
Yes,
There's a gap.
There's a
There's
huge
not
gap
much of a
between
gap.
them.
There's really not much of a gap.
You know, like
Watch
Drake
that
said,
playoff game. That was your takeaway.
Like Drake said.
Yeah, well, it was a terrible matchup for him.
Like Drake said.
It's the best rush defense in the league.
Like Drake said, it's a huge gap between us in the game. When I die, put my money in the grave. When I die, put my money in the grave.
There's not a huge gap between Matt Ryan.
Yeah, there is. There's a huge gap between them in the game.
There's not.
There's a huge gap between them in the game.
I have Matt Ryan one spot ahead of him, so I'll give him that respect. But it's not.
Jalen Hurts is not on Matt Ryan's level, bro. Let's stop this. You're being too disrespectful.
Kirk Cousins or Jalen Hurts?
Kirk Cousins, that's easy. He clears him.
Mac Jones or Jalen Hurts?
Jalen Hurts.
It's Mac Jones.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is,
What?
bro.
What?
Mac Jones is a better quarterback than him
Why?
because he's a better thrower of the football. He's more accurate than him.
He's
not
more
really
accurate.
close.
That's
Jalen
really
Hurts
it.
has
He's
completed
more
59%
accurate.
of his passes in his first two seasons.
He completed
He's
like
literally-
62% last year. It was his rookie year where he started 4 games. You're gonna take that 58% or whatever it was, bro. Stop it.
You know what's
Stop
funny?
it.
When Jordan Love completed 62% of his passes in the preseason, you scoffed at it. But Jalen Hurts does it for a season, and you're like, oh, look.
I
it's
never
pretty
said
good.
my number one knock on Jalen Hurts was this offseason he has to become a more accurate passer. I never called him accurate.
Okay.
The only thing Mac Jones does better than Jalen Hurts, he's a more accurate passer, but he doesn't blow
He
you
reads
away
the
with
field better.
He doesn't blow you away with athleticism. He's not mobile. He doesn't have a big arm. He's just accurate. He's going to be a guy that you're going to look at just like not even on a Kirk Cousins level. I think Kirk Cousins is absolute ceiling. You're going to look at him like, yeah, he gets the job done, but I want someone better. I want someone who's going to elevate my team and be explosive.
That's not
Mac
Hurts.
Jones doesn't do that. Jalen Hurts at least is mobile. He can make throws on the run. When things are chaotic and the offensive line is breaking down, Hurts can make plays happen. Mac Jones doesn't have that ability. He doesn't. He simply doesn't.
It's
Mac
not
Jones is a
just-
fine
but
quarterback.
Just because he doesn't have that ability doesn't mean that he's not a better quarterback.
You're just being safe with Mac. You're just being safe.
All those traits you mentioned, extending plays, moving, using your legs. Kirk Cousins does none of that. And he's a significantly better quarterback than Jalen Hurts.
But I don't think Mac Jones' ceiling is Kirk Cousins. That's his ceiling.
We're judging Mac Jones. For one, he won Offensive Rookie of the Year. Let's get that straight.
Sick.
He won Offensive Rookie of the Year. In a Patriots offensive system led by McDaniels, great play caller, but that didn't have
I have a question.
true great receiving options.
I have a question.
Devontae Smith, yes or no, would he not have been the best receiver on the Patriots last season?
Yeah.
Would he not be the best receiver on the Patriots this season?
Yes.
Okay, that's it. Would Dallas
Question.
Goedert not be the best tight end on the Patriots this season and last
They
season?
didn't use Hunter Henry had a great year.
But
It's
who's
close,
better?
but Goddard.
Yeah, I'd
It's
take
Dallas
Goddard. Yeah.
Goddard. And now Hurts, you're telling me, has
AJ Brown. Am I supposed to take this away from Hurts because Philly knows how to put an offense together and the Patriots are playing in 1980? Hurts should be.
This is what I'm saying. Who has a better offensive line?
Philly.
Okay. Last
year, the Pats' O-line's good.
Last year, Philly had
the best offensive line in football.
Last year,
Pats' O-line's good, but Philly's offensive line's elite.
Last year, the Eagles had a better offensive line, better receivers, better tight end, and Mac Jones still was better than Jalen Hurts as a rookie.
And he got
in a
smoked in the
complicated
playoffs too.
offensive
They
system.
both got smoked.
Now let's say this.
But Mac Jones looked better in his game.
How much better from
Mac
right
Jones
now?
was not
I want to
horrible.
know from right now how much better can Mac Jones get? From Mac Jones this season, how much better can he get?
He can definitely work on his arm strength. He can work on his ball placement. He can work on reading the field better. He can work on reading defenses better.
This Mac Jones that we saw, this is Mac Jones. This is who he's going to be. He's not going to make any massive progress. If Jalen Hurts could work in the offseason like he did last year, having a great camp, getting a number 1 wide receiver, he could progress as a passer.
You're strictly only saying that off the basis that Mac Jones isn't athletic.
I'm saying that because he has a limited ceiling. It's not just athleticism. He doesn't blow you away with arm talent, does he?
Ceiling
he doesn't have zip on the ball like other guys.
But he has more than Jalen Hurts.
I don't think so. I really don't. I saw Jalen Hurts roll out of the pocket against the Jets through a 20-yard strike right on the money. Bang. 25 yards. Quez Watkins. I saw that. Play 1. I've never seen Mac do that in my life. It's not just the mobility. The mobility makes things easier to see with the eyes. But Mac Jones doesn't have... I'm not saying Jalen Hurts has elite arm talent.
Mac
but
Jones
Mac
has
Jones
better pocket presence by far than Hurts.
Because he has to. To be honest, he has to.
What do you mean? But he's still better in the pocket than him.
Yeah, he has to.
Great quarterbacks are great in the pocket. You can't be a great quarterback and not be great in the pocket.
Correct. You do. But being great in the pocket and pocket presence, just being not consistent, but executing the pocket, I would say. Pocket presence, executing the pocket.
And Mac Jones is better.
Yeah, but he's not going to get much better than this. If Jalen Hurts improves as a passer, we're talking about him as a top 13 quarterback.
We'll see.
Now, let me say this. I'm about to talk up Mac real quick. First off, Mac's coach is Bill Belichick, which does offset a good amount of the offensive line and wide receiver / tight end differences between the two teams. And it did take Nick Sirianni a while to realize, hey, we're pretty good at running this football. We should start doing that more.
Wait, why?
Bill Belichick's the best coach of all time. That's what I'm getting at here. That can offset a lot of that.
Who do you think's going to have a more impressive season? Not numbers.
This upcoming season, Jalen Hurts.
Okay.
But he's in a better situation.
Did you just roll your eyes to me saying Mac Jones is learning under Bill Belichick? You rolled your eyes to that.
Because he's not an offensive coach.
But he worked with Tom Brady from a defensive perspective so he could see it from the other end of the field.
But Tom Brady was Tom Brady. You can't compare him.
You just compared Matt Ryan to Tom Brady.
Matt Ryan, hey, he's phenomenal.
Stop.
So he's third overall pick out of Boston College.
So you're disregarding
like
entirely
1980.
Huh?
So you're entirely disregarding Bill Belichick.
I'm not disregarding Bill Belichick.
You rolled your eyes.
From an offensive standpoint, Jalen Hurts was in a better offensive system than Mac Jones last year. The difference, this is a good comparison because the Patriots offense, Josh McDaniels, he put training wheels on the offense, and Mac Jones wasn't forced to do too much. They didn't throw it a lot on early downs. But the same can be, they restricted Jalen Hurts much more in Philadelphia with their offense because Nick Sirianni knows that Jalen Hurts can't make certain plays. That's why they ran the ball so much. But that's their bread and butter, running the ball because you have a mobile quarterback. But now Mac Jones is in a situation where I don't care about that Bill Belichick point. His offensive coaches are Matt Patricia and Joe Judge. Are you kidding me? So
why can I not take into account Mac's situation, the offensive coaching staff around him, the weapons, and say Jalen Hurts can be better?
You put Mac Jones.
But you're living in a hypothetical world that doesn't exist.
But you put Mac Jones in Philadelphia. I think they have a higher ceiling as a team.
I don't care about that because right now Jalen Hurts is the Eagles quarterback and Mac Jones is the Patriots quarterback. You can't take away from Jalen Hurts because he has a good offensive line. He has weapons. No,
you can't if he doesn't maximize it.
Who's going to be the more impressive quarterback? You just said it's going to be Jalen Hurts. So why is it crazy to say I'd rather have Hurts than Mac?
You think Jalen Hurts can elevate guys, right?
Yes.
Okay, you do.
Yes. I have AJ Brown as my dark horse offensive player of the year.
What are your thoughts on the Eagles roster? Super Bowl caliber roster?
They have a great roster, yes.
Okay. If Jalen Hurts can elevate those guys, you believe he can elevate them?
Yes.
That then means you think Jalen Hurts can lead this team to a Super Bowl?
Yes.
Okay. So you think Jalen Hurts can lead the Eagles to a Super Bowl?
Yes. If this was the AFC, it's a different conversation. But in the NFC, where his biggest opponent is going to be probably the Rams with an injured Stafford who has a messed up elbow, or Tom Brady whose offensive line and wide receivers have fallen apart, and Aaron Rodgers who doesn't have any weapons. Yes, the roster-wise, they have arguably the best roster in the NFC.
Okay, I like what you're saying here because when we talk about Matt Ryan and the Colts, right? Their roster is better than a lot of teams in the AFC's roster. But because of the quarterback, you're like, they can't beat these teams. But yet Jalen Hurts is not as good as Tom Brady, not as good as Matthew Stafford. I don't think he's going to be as good as Trey Lance either. He's not as good as Kyler Murray. He's not as good as Kirk Cousins. He's not as good as, I think Jameis Winston possibly has a better season than him too.
But all of
you would still put the Eagles over those teams, even though the quarterback is significantly worse.
Because the quarterback, it's much more marginal. Stafford, he's got it. Brady, obviously, but like Kirk Cousins.
Kyler,
yeah, but the Cardinals suck. Like, the Cardinals are not going to be in deep playoff contention. Their defense stinks.
There's a gap between Kirk Cousins and Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, there's
Prescott.
Yes.
There's a significant
but the
gap.
roster, but these quarterbacks are not on the same caliber as the AFC quarterbacks where you have fucking Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, Lamar Jackson, Josh Allen. You have four of the five best quarterbacks in the league in the AFC.
A Hall of Famer. He's an MVP.
I don't care about Hall of Fame or MVP, bro. I don't care. I do not care.
What has Jalen Hurts done?
In 2016, Jalen Hurts was in fucking high school, bro. When Matt Ryan was in high school.
What has Jalen Hurts won to be labeled as Kirk Cousins is just marginally better than him?
Kirk Cousins is better, but this is what you're missing. This is what you're missing.
Dak Prescott is significantly better.
Can I talk? This is what you're missing, bro. This is what you're missing. In the AFC.
What about Carson Wentz?
In the AFC, shut up. In the AFC, Matt Ryan has to go against the absolute best of the fucking best.
And his roster is capable.
Yes, but
he has the best of the best running game in that fucking conference.
Also have great rosters. The Chiefs have a good roster. The Chargers, the Chiefs have the quarterback and the roster. The Chargers have the quarterback and the roster. The Bengals, the Ravens have the quarterback and the roster.
Who has the best running game in that conference?
In what, the AFC?
Yes.
If J.K. Dobbins healthy, it could be Baltimore, but it'll probably be the Colts that have the best
Colts
running back.
Top two consensus most likely.
They have the best running back in the league. What does that have to do with Matt Ryan?
Because that matters. That matters.
I understand, but the quarterbacks and teams in the NFC are a lot worse than the quarterbacks and teams in the AFC, which is why I feel comfortable.
How?
What do you mean
the
how?
Buccaneers roster is better than the Eagles roster.
Their offensive line just fell apart. Their interior offensive line fell apart, and their wide receivers, we don't know what's going to look like.
Better than the Eagles roster.
Yes.
And looking at Minnesota, their roster is...
Be careful.
They're quite the same.
Be careful. Defensively, the Eagles clear. Offensive line, the Eagles clear.
They're the best offensive line in the entire NFL.
Yeah, but
the Eagles have a wide receiver
between the rosters, though.
And the Eagles obviously don't have Justin Jefferson, but A.J. Brown's a top 10 guy. Devontae Smith's one of the better wide receiver twos in the league.
A.J. Brown has yet to put 1,200 yards.
We know he is, bro. We know he is. He's been banged up. When he's on the field, he's a top 10 receiver. When he's on the field, he's a top 10 receiver.
What makes him better than Keenan Allen right now? Keenan Allen is a far more consistent receiver.
I think Keenan Allen's number 10. I think A.J. Brown's like number 9. AJ Brown's more explosive. It depends who you want. Do you want a guy who's gonna eat you up over the middle of the field, get you 8 catches, or do you want to have a guy like AJ Brown who in one play could take it to the crib?
I like the guy giving me the chunk plays. I like Keenan Allen. I like him.
Chunk plays is AJ Brown. Chunk plays is you go down the field. He could take a screen to the house. He could take a 30-yard post route to that. Like,
that's
he could
a
do both.
big time play. That's not a chunk play. That's a
chunk play is 20, 30 yards, bro. That's a chunk play.
That's a chunk play.
But to go back, John, can we talk for a second, real quick? Just be in your zone. Is it crazy to say that Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, the quarterbacks and rosters they play in the NFC, it's not as crazy to say they can make a Super Bowl run compared to Matt Ryan and the Colts, who have to go against literally the best quarterbacks in the NFL who are on teams that have great rosters?
So you're putting your faith in Jalen Hurts and not Matt Ryan.
It's Jalen. You know I'm a Jalen Hurts guy, but it's Jalen Hurts, but it's also the NFC, bro. If the Colts were in the NFC, I would be with you. I'd be like, bro, they could really go to the Super Bowl and make this run. But there's just teams and quarterbacks in the AFC that are better.
So the Eagles face the 49ers in the first round. You're picking the Eagles?
Those are my two teams. No, my agenda teams. There are both of them. I'd have to see, because what does Trey Lance look like at the end of the year? Trey Lance has more upside.
If they face the Bucks, you're picking the Eagles?
I picked the Bucks.
If they face the Rams, you're picking the Eagles.
I picked the Rams.
If they face Minnesota, you're picking the Eagles.
Eagles, yeah. I'd go Eagles.
So far, 3 teams you have said you were.
I said 2.
No, you said 49ers.
No, I didn't choose on the 49ers.
Oh, you didn't count them. Yeah. Okay. Minnesota.
I would take the Eagles.
Saints.
I would take the Eagles.
All right. I'm just making sure. Yeah,
I have 2 teams. And I still. The Bucks are going to be there, but their offensive line's falling apart. It's a little worrisome.
Listen, believe what you want to believe.
Gladly.
The Cowboys. I didn't mention them.
Eagles.
The Cowboys have dominated them the past couple of years.
It's a different team. It's a different team. The second game, Jalen Hurts didn't even play.
I say that because...
You know it. Take it back. The second game, Jalen Hurts didn't even play.
He dominated them regardless.
He wasn't on the field.
Dak eats against the NFC East. I say
and
that
has done one in the playoffs.
I say that to say that just to expose your hypocrisy.
You're not exposing
when
me.
it comes to the Colts, because Matt Ryan is not as good as these quarterbacks, they have no chance to get out the wild card. But when it comes to Jalen Hurts, although he's not as good as any of these quarterbacks, oh yeah, they can make a run because Jalen Hurts elevates guys and Matt Ryan doesn't, right? Matt Ryan doesn't elevate guys, but Jalen Hurts does.
I picked the two guys. I picked Tom Brady and the Bucks and Matt Stafford and the Rams. Two guys I think everyone says is a clear quarterback clearing over Jalen Hurts.
Kirk Cousins is clearing.
Kirk Cousins is better, yes, but on a given game, Jalen Hurts can be better.
No, it's not.
On a given day,
Kirk
yes.
Cousins is a clearing, bro.
What have we seen?
He's had 4 straight years. He's had a 100-plus passer rating or higher. What are we talking about here? Dak Prescott is a clearing. Those are 4 quarterbacks that are clearing.
Yes, but we also have these other teams in the AFC don't have as many holes as the Vikings. The Vikings,
Kyler Murray's a clearing.
But you're missing a huge point, bro.
What if Arizona wins? What if they make the playoffs?
These teams in the AFC do not have holes. The Chiefs don't have a hole, and they have the coach and the quarterback.
The Chiefs don't have a hole?
The Chargers don't. Not like the Vikings or Cardinals. The Vikings and Cardinals, we think both their defense could be bottom of the league.
The Vikings are not going to be a bottom of the league defense.
They were last year.
Because they were hurt. They're not going to be that this year.
They had a lot on the edge and the secondary.
They have Daniil Hunter
and we have a first-year head coach with Kevin O'Connell.
Nice defense.
You can't compare apples to apples here, bro. Like
you just
it's
said
different.
You just said the Chiefs have no holes, bro.
Not comparable to the Cardinals.
Their corners, there's a hole at corner.
Not compared to the Cardinals. They just got Trent McDuffie.
A rookie.
You were extremely high on. Who is your guy?
On him, but he turns them from a hole to not having a hole?
No, but he was a first-round pick. You expect him to come in and contribute right away.
So then the Jets don't have a hole at corner, too, because
I think with Sauce and DJ Reed, you have a pretty fucking good cornerback duo.
That's still, we don't have, so our secondary is fucking fantastic.
No, we need a safety.
Okay. What about the Chiefs? Do they need a safety? They just got Justin Reed, but
I was going to say they lost Justin Reed, but they lost Matthew.
Okay. Now, what about...
It's not a huge hole, but you're comparing them. You're comparing the Chiefs, the Chargers, the Ravens, all these teams who really don't have holes to the Cardinals and Vikings, bro.
The Chiefs, Chargers, I agree, have minimal holes.
Am I bugging? Am I bugging?
Yeah, Joel, you look at last season, just last season.
Well, what's the Colts hole, though? It's just receiver.
I'm not... This isn't a Colts...
That's one position group.
This isn't a Colts conversation, bro.
All those teams we're mentioning, the Colts, the Chargers, the Chiefs, the Bengals, the Ravens, they all have 1 to 2 holes on a roster, like the Colts.
But I have a question for you. What are you getting at here at the Colts?
No, I just wanted him to explain. I wanted him to explain how Jalen Hurts elevates guys and can make a run despite being one of the worst quarterbacks among all those playoff teams. But Matt Ryan can't make a run with the Colts because he's worse than the quarterbacks.
We'll come back to that in a moment. What are the Colts going to do in 2022?
They're going to be one of the best teams in the AFC.
No. What are they going to accomplish in 2022?
They're going to be a legit contender for the AFC Championship.
I'm asking what your prediction is for the Colts this year.
What do you mean? I just told you.
Are they going to go to the Super Bowl? Are they going to go to, let's say they get knocked down in the wild card?
They have a chance to.
I'm saying the same thing with the Eagles.
The reason I'm asking for your prediction is because last year, look at the path to the Super Bowl. So much of it is who you're going up against, you catch a break, and then you get to the AFC or the NFC Championship game. The Bengals, wild card, they get the Raiders. It's not really a real playoff team.
You're preaching to the fucking choir. I said this all offseason.
Yeah, I know. I have to repeat this. Then they get the Titans, one of the worst number 1 seeds.
You're repeating his talking points, so you want to be in the losing side of the argument.
No, we're going to compare and contrast.
Okay.
Then you get the Titans, who are not a real number 1 seed. They're hampered by injury. Derrick Henry wasn't him. Then they get the Chiefs. That's where the lightning in the bottle comes. You have an awesome game in Arrowhead. Then you look at the Rams. They play the Cardinals, who were a legit playoff team. They started the year 8-0. Then they get the Buccaneers, the reigning defending champs, and then the 49ers, who put it all together for the end of the season. That was a legitimate contender. Then you look at the Chiefs the year before. They had to go up against Cleveland, a legitimate contender that could have went to the Super Bowl in 2020, and the Bills the following week. That's a tough way to come at the AFC, and when you look at all the inundated talent, Oakland has maybe the most talented offense.
You said the who?
I said the Bill. I'm talking about who are you talking about?
You said they were legitimate contenders to go to the Super Bowl in 2020.
Yeah, the Browns.
Okay.
Yeah. And you look what the Raiders did this all season. They have maybe the most talented offense in the NFL. The point is, when it comes to making your way through, the pathway is so much steeper to climb in the AFC than it is in the NFC. That's all we're getting at here. And so when you won't give us a prediction, it's because you know you don't catch breaks in this AFC. You're lucky to get into the playoffs in this AFC.
No,
the
I'm
Titans
not.
were the number
Wait,
one team
no,
last
wait,
year.
hold on.
Titans, like,
No. I'll stop you right there.
Thank you.
The reason I'm not giving a full-on prediction is because I have not done it for any team. I'm not up here saying the Chargers are going to the Super Bowl. The Bills are going to the Super Bowl. Oh, in the NFC, the Rams are going. I'm not saying it for any of those teams. I'm saying there is a chance for the Colts to make a run. But you, at every single turn, at every single stop sign, at every single street light, what you have done is said the Colts have a very little chance to even get out the wild card. But the Eagles have this chance to go to the Super Bowl because Jalen Hurts elevates guys and the Eagles have the roster, yet the Colts have the roster and they have a better quarterback, but they can't do it. That's where I'm getting at.
Because I think the Colts are going to win their division. I still think the Colts are going to be the worst of the division winners. I think they will have the 4 seed. They'll have to play either the Chiefs or Chargers or the Broncos, whichever one, or they'll have to play the Bengals or Ravens. That's where I get lost. Where the Eagles, on the other hand, like it or not, they could be a top 2 or 3 seed. In the regular season, they won 11 games last year, and they just got better.
9.
Oh, they won 9?
They won 9.
I apologize. The Cowboys won the division. They have 11 wins.
Something like that.
Regardless, now you have a year 2 Nick Sirianni, Jalen Hurts' second year starting. Their roster got better with A.J. Brown, with Jordan Davis, and now they could be a top 2 or 3 seed in the NFC and play a wild card team like the Saints in round 1. They could beat the Saints.
But ultimately, the reason why you don't give the Colts a chance to get out the wild card is because of the quarterback they'd be facing. That's what you've been getting at this entire time.
I'm worried about the opponents.
Yes. But
the opponent and the
any
quarterback.
opponent the Eagles would face, that quarterback, outside of the Saints, because Jameis is not a significant upgrade over Jalen Hurts, outside of the Saints, any quarterback Jalen Hurts would face is significantly better than him.
But the
49ers?
You got to also think the Eagles.
Trey Lance will be significantly better than Jalen Hurts.
Pause the brakes.
Significantly.
On that
I'm happy you're in on Trey Lance now.
Trey
You're
Lance,
a little
I've
wishy-washy.
never been wishy-washy on him.
You never had a take about him.
I know. Trey Lance is going to eat this season.
I
He's
agree.
going
I
to
think
be phenomenal.
I think he's going to be really
He's
good.
going to clear Jalen Froster.
Jalen Froster?
Yeah. Fraudster.
Oh, fraudster?
Fraudster.
That's ridiculous. The only issue, or we're not seeing eye to eye here, is on the Eagles. While, sure, Jalen Hurts might be marginally worse than some of these quarterbacks, their
It's
roster...
not marginal, though.
Do you think the Eagles...
Dak Prescott is significantly better than Jalen Hurts, my arm to throw.
Where would you rank the Eagles roster? Top 5?
In the NFC?
Top 10?
including
And the
Jalen
sure.
No, they have a top. They're the 10th best roster in the league to me.
In the NFL. And so, probably in the NFC, they're a top 2 or 3 roster. If they're a top 10 in the league.
I think Rams are better. I think Bucks are better. I think Saints have a better roster than them, too.
Oh.
Saints have a better roster than
behind the
them.
Saints. They do not have a
Wait,
better
Saints
roster.
defense is better than the Eagles defense.
It's going to be close.
That's for one.
It's going to be close.
Marshawn Lattimore,
Okay, they have fucking...
Tyrann Mathieu,
They have Darius Slay.
Cameron Jordan. What do you mean? Marshawn Lattimore and Tyrann Mathieu, that secondary, what?
Yeah, well, they just picked up Tyrann.
DeMario Davis as linebacker, Pro Bowl?
They just got Nakobe Dean, who was great in his first
Bro,
game. Jordan
He's not
Davis,
no DeMario
Fletcher
Davis.
Cox.
He's not no DeMario Davis.
Obviously not, no. But now you don't have Sean Payton. You have Dennis Allen stepping in for the first time. But that's a question mark. You have Jameis Winston coming back from torn ACL. Question mark. Michael Thomas. Question mark.
Question mark on offense. Defensive, there's no question mark.
Defensively, they'll be
Dennis
good.
Allen has held it down.
And what did they do last year for them?
What do you mean?
They had an elite defense.
They
had elite defense, and where did it get them?
They were in the hunt for
But
the
they didn't
playoffs,
have-
and he started 4 different
they were
quarterbacks.
5-2
What are we
with
talking
Jameis.
about?
I'm just
Where
saying.
did they get who?
Okay, and we're expecting
started
Jameis to
Ian
come
Book
off a
and
torn
Trevor
ACL.
Siemian.
Jameis Winston started 5 or 6 games last year.
Bro,
the year before,
they
he
were-
didn't. He was a backup, and we're expecting Jameis to come in off a torn ACL and just be great.
The Saints had winning records with Taysom Hill and Jameis Winston starting. They only lost when they played Trevor Siemian and Ian Book.
Playoff teams, we know they were gonna lose, bro.
The Eagles did not be a playoff team last year either.
Yo,
I like the Eagles a lot, too.
and that was with the Saints having no offensive weapons outside of Marquez Callaway.
He's not even offensive.
The Saints receivers are better than the Eagles receivers. Michael Thomas healthy. Chris Olave Jarvis is better than the Eagles receiving core. Running back Alvin Kamara is better. What are we talking about? The Saints have a better roster than the Eagles.
Devonta Smith clears Olave and Jarvis Landry. Michael Thomas, maybe. We'll see. But A.J. Brown, right? If you told me I could take one receiver right now, A.J. Brown or MT, I'm taking A.J. Brown. Easily.
Here's the thing: you win games.
Your comeback player of the year.
Yeah, well, I'm projecting. I know A.J. Brown's
So
going to be a
you're
dog. A.J. Brown can't win comeback player of the year. I have A.J. Brown as offensive player of the year, dark horse.
Comeback player of the year, what does Michael Thomas get? What are the numbers?
Comeback player of the year? Probably like 1,200.
It's something A.J. Brown's never had in his career.
Well, in this world where he does win comeback player of the year, I have A.J. Brown as my dark horse offensive player of the year.
Okay, because Jalen Hurts elevates guys.
He does. Okay. Devontae Smith just had a great rookie season. He led the team with receiving touchdowns.
So Tua elevates guys too. Because Jalen Waddle had a great rookie season.
Tua elevate. Jalen Waddle is a great talent too. So is Devontae Smith.
So Jalen Hurts elevates guys, but Tua doesn't. Although they both are rookies and they both have fantastic seasons.
I think they both do enough to do what the wide receiver's supposed to.
Wait, what about Matt Ryan? Does he elevate guys? Because Kyle Pitts had a historic tight end
and he had one touchdown. He was the best tight end prospect of all time.
You've been putting Matt Ryan in your mouth a lot recently, but I think with him, it's the capability component with Jalen Hurts. Now, let me say one thing. It's driving me crazy. You're saying the Eagles or the Saints have a significantly better roster than the Eagles, but I say this all the time. You win games in the trenches. And my question for you is, the Philadelphia Eagles, when healthy, is this not the best offensive line football?
And you also got to think the Saints lost Teron Armstead, the second best left tackle in the league. That's going to be a huge loss.
And then you look at this defensive line.
Andres Pete is a good guard. Eric McCoy is a good center. Ryan Ramczyk is one of the better tackles in the league.
They're
still going to be an average offensive line.
But losing a left tackle is significant. The biggest piece on the offensive line.
The word significantly means sufficiently more, and the best offensive line football is a lot better, significantly better than an average offensive line. Then look at the defensive line. Fletcher Cox.
Elite.
Javon Hargrave.
Great.
Your boy, you hold him pretty highly, Jordan Davis.
Yeah.
Great. Expect him to be great.
Now you had Hassan Reddick on the outside as well. From
Great
Carolina.
pickup. Great edge rusher.
Very good.
None
edge
of those
rusher.
players are better than Cameron Jordan right now.
But then you also add in James Bradbury to replace Steve Nelson.
David
I forgot about Bradbury.
David Onyemata is better right now than I would say most of their defensive linemen.
What?
Outside of Fletcher Cox, I think Fletcher Cox and him are pretty close right now. But
what about Javon Hargrave? Javon Hargrave is elite.
Fletcher Cox is elite.
David Onyemata is one of the best tackles in a defense tackles.
Fletcher Cox is better than him. Come on, bro.
You talk about Fletcher Cox and Jordan Davis. I say to myself, they just have so many maulers there. One of the best tight ends, by far one of the most underrated ones.
But you know what else matters? What else matters is the second level too. And then the second level, the Saints are significantly better in the second level.
There's no one you can target on that same second level. I agree with you.
Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore, Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, C.J. Gardner-Johnson.
Yeah.
Like, bro, come on.
It's special right there.
They're
maybe the best secondary.
They're going to be a top 5 defense in the league.
Yeah.
Do you think the Eagles will be a better defense than the Saints next year?
I think they're going to be a similar
season.
I'll go with the Saints.
I would say, yeah, but they're going to be close. The Eagles are going to have a great defense.
I think the Eagles will be top 10. I think the Saints will be top 5.
Yeah, like they're both going to have really good defenses. At that point, it comes down to coaching and offense, and I will take the fucking Eagles.
When we talk about weapons, I would rather have A.J. Brown than Michael Thomas because what I've seen in the last 2 years.
Thank you. And Devonta Smith.
Mind you,
and this running game is just as productive, more productive when you consider Mark Ingram as their backup back.
I'm looking at right now PFF real quick.
PFF fanboy over here.
No, I want to see where Fletcher Cox ranked.
He's awesome. You know,
yeah, bro. Like, we know Fletcher Cox is fucking good.
No, I know he's great. I'm not saying he's not great, but I just want to see where he ranked.
And
what was his grade this past season? Because I think, so Fletcher Cox grade was 66.7 overall, which would rank about like the 32nd best interior defensive lineman in the league. Javon Hargrave was 32nd, right? David Onyemata was number 7 in the league, according to PFF this past season. It was only people in front of him was Aaron Donald, Cameron Hayward, Jonathan Allen, Chris Jones, Christian Wilkins, and then it's David Onyemata.
So you're not basing this opinion off of what you've seen. You're just basing it entirely off of PFF.
No, I'm not. I'm basing it off what I've seen. I literally told you I think Fletcher Cox is a better player, but I think David Onyemata is he's one of the best interior defenders in the league. That's what I originally started with. So not only do you have a top 5, top 10-ish edge rusher in Cameron Jordan, they also have a top 10 interior defender in the league in David Onyemata. So this defensive line is comparable to the Eagles. And Marcus Davenport's also good.
Yeah, you mentioned he's really good.
Eagles clear. Don't move me. Colts suck. Eagles are good. Saints suck.
Would you rather? Now we know what's coming, right?
Yes.
Jordan Love. We're going to talk about him. We're going to do a would you rather on Jordan Love because I think it's interesting. And this is one of the would you rathers that I'm actually going to partake in. I'm actually going to give my answer with them as well.
For that.
Yeah.
Let's go.
Never sleep.
Fuck you.
On David Onyemata.
Fuck you. David, do you even know how to spell his last name?
Yeah.
No,
O-N-Y-E-M.
you were just looking at PFF.
No. It's Onyemata. Onyemata.
There's no way.
Good job.
Not even thinking of it for a second.
Would you
Good chest
rather?
pulse.
You guys ready?
Born ready.
Would you rather Jordan Love edition? Now we know he's had a tough start to his career. We don't know when he's ever going to play, but nonetheless, we're going to compare some other quarterbacks in the league. Drew Lock.
I'll see what Jordan Love has.
Jordan Love.
I'm going Jordan Love. Tua Tagovailoa.
Tua, not close.
Love.
I'm going Jordan Love too.
What?
You can,
What?
you can replace Tua with Tyrod Taylor or even a Teddy Bridgewater and get very similar production. The ceiling is incomparable.
Oh my god.
Jordan Love's ceiling is
I like Jordan Love better.
Oh my god.
I
I'll
like
take
Jordan
what
Love
he
better.
can be.
My god.
I'll take the 30% chance Jordan Love can reach his ceiling over Tua. I never think he'll be a top 20 or top 15 quarterback in the
Y'all
game.
don't know fucking ball, bro.
Davis Mills.
Davis Mills. So we have to think about Davis Mills, but not Tua?
I'm still
Tua's
going.
better than Davis Mills.
I'm still going with Jordan Love, even with Davis Mills.
Jordan Love.
Daniel Jones.
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love for me too. Sam Darnold.
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love.
Jordan Love for me too. Mitch Trubisky.
Jordan Love. I'll see what he's got.
I'm going Jordan Love.
Steelers homer over here. Can't decide. If he wasn't on the Steelers, would it be this hard?
Jordan Love.
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickett. But
I think because of the floor, I'll go Kenny Pickett. I like his moxie. Jared Goff.
like Jared, this is the thing. Like Jared, who do I want? If you said you could just start a franchise with one of these guys, I'll see what Jordan Love has. But if I have a team ready to win now, Jared Goff, I'd rather have him for that team.
We've seen Jared Goff ceiling Jordan Love.
Jared Goff's ceiling was fucking amazing in LA.
Yeah, for a year, and then he held the team
Yeah,
back.
I mean, it took Sean
Partially
McVay and
injury.
a bunch of weapons, but I understand.
That too.
This is tough. I think I'm going to go with Jared Goff.
It's
Marcus Mariota.
Jordan Love, see what he has.
tough. Jordan Love.
I'm going Jordan Love. Jameis Winston.
Jameis.
Jameis Winston for me too. And last name, Gardner Minshew.
Jordan Love. You dead ass?
Yeah.
Like, do you think Tua's like the 28th best quarterback in the league?
Why
26.
is it, wait, hold up. Why isn't Gardner Minshew better than Tua?
Gardner.
He has been better with a very bad team.
What makes Tua better than Gardner Minshew? In all honesty,
I don't even want to answer this.
no statistics you can showcase that Tua's better than Gardner Minshew.
Tua's a more accurate passer. He's better ball placement. He's a better deep thrower. Period.
Is he a better deep thrower?
Yes,
Okay.
he was limited last year in deep throw attempts, but he was among the leaders in accuracy.
Okay. Minshew doesn't have a strong arm.
I
You
can't.
think that's
go with Jordan
sustainable?
Love.
You think that's sustainable? The same thing you said with Jameis Winston. How the touchdown rate wasn't sustainable.
But I look at that as different. Like, I think completing long passes is not as random as scoring touchdowns.
I'm going with Jordan Love.
I'm going Jordan Love as well.
Gardner
Who did we just
Minshew.
say? Okay, no, Gardner.
Gardner Minshew was rookie season 21 touchdowns, 6 picks, 91 passer rating. Second season, 16 touchdowns, 5 picks, 96 passer rating. And that was in Jacksonville.
I know,
he
but
was never given a chance to succeed there either.
if
as a 6th-round
if
pick.
Minshew had if teams saw 32 teams saw Gardner Minshew, he hasn't got another chance to start. What does that tell us?
Because
he
he's
is
one
by
of the
far
best
the best
backups in the
backup.
league.
He is the best backup, in my opinion.
Okay, so he's a backup. Tua's not a backup.
That's what Tua's going to be, though. He's only not a backup because he was a highly drafted
Tua's an average
player.
starter. He's an average starter. He's
That
not a
is
backup,
most likely-
He's
bro.
below average.
You guys are so. I feel like I'm Drew right now. Like, you guys are so disrespectful to Tua.
There is a lot of very good quarterbacks. I mean, Ryan Tannehill.
So
I'd
you
rather
think
have.
you think
Jameis
Gardner
Winston.
you think Gardner Minshew is better than Tua?
I think they're in the same camp.
Oh my God.
Yeah. If Gardner Minshew was a 5th overall pick and Tua was a 5th rounder, I think we
But
look
he
at this a
wasn't.
little differently.
But he wasn't.
But it's the draft pedigree which really separates.
But he
the two.
wasn't, because Tua was amazing at Bama,
Then had a hip injury, which was
which was devastating, and it obviously set him back in the league. If he never had that hip injury, he's probably not the guy we're looking at right now.
I agree.
But now he's also multiple years removed from that hip injury. Like, bro, Tua's going to put 4,000 yards and 28 touchdowns this year. Y'all know that, right?
here's the
He's going to
thing.
clear whatever Gardner Minshew did.
4,000 yards, you think so?
Yes. Jimmy G had 3,800 yards last year. Tua's going to have 4,000 yards and 28. And y'all know how I feel about Tua. I think he's a good quarterback who's going to put up good average quarterback who's going to put up good numbers because he has great weapons around him. I still think Miami's going to look at Tua and say, if we can upgrade, if Lamar becomes available somehow, they're going to try and go and upgrade. But overall, Tua's going to have a good year. He's a starting quarterback in this league. Gardner Minshew, there's a reason he never got another chance.
But the Dolphins are going to win with Tua, not because of him. And
I don't disagree.
When you look at Mitch Trubisky,
What did Gardner Minshew win? Nothing.
But it's 2-1.
Look at that team.
He's literally cost his team a chance to go and win in the playoffs.
I'm not disagreeing, but he's saying they're going to win basically in spite of Tua. They just have a good team.
They can win with him much like Jimmy G. I think he's in that Jimmy G, Jared Goff camp with, of course.
I don't think Jimmy G and Gardner Minshew are in the same camp. Like, Jimmy G's got a Super Bowl.
I think Gardner Minshew is the bottom of that tier, and Jimmy G be at the top.
You're just really high on Gardner Minshew.
I love Gardner Minshew. I think he's an awesome backup quarterback.
I do too. He's a great backup. There's a difference between great backup and average starter.
But if you put Gardner Minshew in this Dolphins offense, I think they win just as many games as they could with Tua.
How many games did Minshew play in those 2 years? Just curious.
He went 1-7 the second year, and he went 6-6 for his rookie season.
Okay, so he never. Okay.
6
Oh, so he never had a winning record.
No, I was gonna say 12 games is a pretty decent sample.
He was pretty good.
On to the next topic.
Rookie.
Zach Wilson in preseason injured his knee. Thankfully, it wasn't an ACL and it was a meniscus. And he had right knee surgery. It was deemed a success. Recovery time is scheduled for 2 to 4 weeks. And that begs the question, this has been a growing topic on social media. What if Joe Flacco plays well? What if the Jets go 3-0? We beat the Ravens. We beat the Browns. We beat the Bengals. Should they just keep Joe Flacco out there and not play Zach Wilson, not start him when he's fully healthy? I'm curious to hear your answer, Joel, because you thought this was a waste of a topic.
I do think this is a wasted topic. We just talked about in the last show when Zach Wilson went down and everyone thought the worst, that it was a torn ACL. I just got an epiphany. I was like, this year doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is finding out if Zach Wilson is the starting franchise quarterback, and we don't have to think about a quarterback in the 23 draft or trading for one or free agency, whatever. The number one thing the Jets have to figure out is if Zach Wilson is a franchise quarterback. Joe Flacco, respectfully, he's been a great career. He's a vet. He's done it all. Been to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl.
He elevates guys.
1 year. If Joe Flacco went out and put up 500 yards and 5 touchdowns both of the first 2 games, his ass is still sitting. His ass is fucking sitting because we need Zach Wilson in the starting lineup because Joe Flacco is not the franchise. 36-year-old Joe Flacco is not going to be the franchise guy. We need to find out if Zach Wilson is the guy. The time of waiting 3 years to find out if that's your franchise guy, they're over. I know the Giants are doing it with Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones' time is up. We know what he is. You have to, in my opinion, 2 seasons to prove you're a franchise quarterback. We saw it with the first year with Zach. First half of the year was pretty choppy, got injured. Second half of the year, he looked pretty damn good. Now this second season, this is his time to show I'm the franchise guy. I can be the leader of this team and elevate guys around me with this great offensive weapons and line, and we think we have a pretty good coaching staff as well. You can't have Flacco out there. You're going to halt Zach Wilson's progress. I don't give a shit what Joe Flacco does. If Zach Wilson's out 4 weeks and we're 4-0 and Joe Flacco is leading the league and everything, it doesn't matter because even if Joe Flacco brought us to the playoffs and we lose in the first round, what did we find out? We have a borderline playoff team with an aging quarterback, and now we don't know if Zach Wilson's our franchise guy. It's a waste of time.
It's not a waste of time.
What on earth?
This has been such a weird episode.
And this is why I say that. And this is why this is not a waste of a topic.
Where's his Funko Pop that you violated last week?
Zach Wilson, there's no doubt in my mind he's a franchise guy. He's the guy. He's the New York Jets quarterback. There's no doubt about it. I think the Jets rushed out Zach Wilson too early last season. He should have sat last season, to be honest. He should have learned. He should have pulled the Trey Lance. He should have pulled the Trey Lance, and he should have sat and learned, right?
We didn't have a backup last year.
Yeah, I know. That's on the front office.
It is.
Last season's schedule started off very tough. This season's schedule is brutal as well. Now, Zach Wilson's recovery time is 2 to 4 weeks, which means he might be ready for week 1. If I'm the Jets, if I'm the front office, Zach Wilson is not playing until week 4, and that's the bare minimum. That's really week 4 maybe. And the reason for that is because we're talking about a quarterback who, Joe, you mentioned it last week. How much can you trust Zach? He's had 2 knee injuries in 2 seasons. He was injury prone coming out of college. And the Jets start off against the Ravens, who
The
have
AFC North.
Michael Pierce, Calais Campbell, Odafe Owe, and Tyus Bowser. They have the Browns, they face the Browns, who have Myles Garrett and Jadeveon Clowney. We don't even have reliable tackles. George Fant was good last year. Is he holding down Myles Garrett? Fuck no. Bengals, DJ Reed or Trey Hendrickson. The Jets are starting off the season facing great defensive lines. And there's no doubt Zach Wilson is going to get hit a lot when that happens. I'm not putting my franchise quarterback at risk. Yes, if Joe Flacco's playing decent, he's playing okay, let him out there until Zach Wilson's 100% healthy. That's why I said it's not a waste of time. Am I saying Zach Wilson sit the entire season? No. But when it's right, come back. When you're fully healthy, come back.
So it is
week 4.
The question is, if Flacco starts off well, should the Jets start him?
I think
all you said is once Zach Wilson's healthy, he comes back. So if he starts off well, no, he's not starting.
Joe Flacco week 1 is probably, let's say, Zach Wilson's probably gonna be ready for week 1, week 2. I still wouldn't start.
They're gonna be very cautious.
Am I starting Zach Wilson against Myles Garrett and Davion Clowney? No.
But I think this is a different conversation. I think the Jets also will hold him out week 1. They want to be super sure that they don't rush him back. He needs to be healthy 100%. That's a different conversation.
And honestly, we have to. I think that all Jets fans have to now. This should have been done a while ago. Jets fans have to thoroughly investigate the NFL schedule makers. There's no way that the Jets are continuously one of the worst teams in the league, yet we have the toughest schedules in the league almost every other year. It makes no sense. Chicago with Justin Fields, they were the worst team in the NFC North. They have one of the easiest schedules in the league. The Giants, one of the easiest schedules in the league.
Well, they're in the NFC.
The Jets keep having one of the toughest schedules in the league because even after the first 3 weeks, we're facing the Steelers, Dolphins, Packers, and Broncos. We're talking about T.J. Watt, Cameron Hayward, Emmanuel Ogbah, Christian Wilkins, Jalen Phillips, Rashawn Gary, Devontae White, Kenny Clark, Preston Smith. The Broncos with Randy Gregory and Bradley Chubb. That's our easiest matchup.
Oh, Bradley Chubb's the guy now? Randy Gregory's the guy now?
I'm just saying. It's despicable. It's despicable.
You know why, real quick before you go? The AFC just has so much more better teams, like we were saying in the last segment, but go on.
It's funny how that works.
Crazy,
They
right?
legitimately don't play a bad football team. The New York Jets, who have not made the playoffs in 12 years, until week 12 against the Bears. You play the AFC North, and you got, like you said, all those teams. But then you got Buffalo coming off your bye week, the Patriots again, and then the Bears.
Just because that's how it works doesn't mean the Eagles are lock-ins for Super Bowl.
Shut up.
Now, we have to come back to reality. I have to level you a little bit. You have reason behind Zach Wilson. I used the word moxie before to define some. I think Zach Wilson has it. But at the same time, you have to answer this question. Was Zach Wilson terrible in his rookie season?
He wasn't that good.
Was he terrible?
He was not a good quarterback.
Was he below average or terrible?
It was his rookie season, growing pains.
And so you can't confidently say yet until he shows it to you he is a franchise quarterback. You have to actually prove it first.
I'm bought in. I'm bought in.
So you're bought in without actually seeing it. That's what they call delusion.
You don't want to be bought. You don't want to be bought in. You're not bought. You don't have to be bought in.
I love Zach Wilson. I think he's gonna be.
You thought Mason Rudolph was a franchise quarterback.
I think Gardner Minshew's a franchise quarterback.
I said Mason Rudolph would be a bridge for the Steelers, and then they signed Mitch Trubisky. That's what I said. I thought Mason.
So you're more sold on Mason Rudolph than you are Zach Wilson because he's shown a little bit more.
Did I call Mason Rudolph franchise quarterback?
No,
I just said I like Zach Wilson a lot, but until he actually proves it to you, he isn't a franchise quarterback. He has to show it to you. He had a great game for the Titans. He was making terrific throws, and he beat the number 1 seed. okay, now can we get that for a few more weeks? Can we see you stay healthy? You talked about the injuries. Can we see you put it all together in your second season? And I understand the Jets did not support him well as a rookie, and they should have sat him. I agree with you on that. But the fact of the matter is, much like any of these other young quarterbacks, even if you're not a fan of those teams, you have to hold them to the same standard. The same way Tua, Jalen Hurts, Jordan Love, all to prove themselves. You have to show it before you can say, is this guy a hit? Is he a bust? You have to use that same logic with Zach Wilson, whether or not you're a Jets fan. Now, with Mason Rudolph, I said he'd be a bridge because odds are the Steelers are going to be competitive with him. In worst case scenario, he gets you a top 5 pick if the season goes horribly. That's why I was like, that makes a lot of sense. And you don't have to spend, $7 million Mr. Trubisky, who I think is fine. You can use that $5 million in the defense. That was literally it. Because Mason's like the 30th best quarterback for $2 million.
He's not the 30th best quarterback. He's like 50th best quarterback.
Yeah, it's like 45.
I was going to say there's a gap between
He's
Tua.
got a good deep ball. I think.
Is there a gap
Mason's
between Tua and Mason Rudolph?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. Yeah, I'd
whose
take Tua any
favorite?
day. What?
And who's favorite?
Oh, Tua. I think Mason's got good deep ball, nothing else. I think he's got.
You said
Even
he
though
got
it's,
deep balls?
Hello.
you're just putting words in my mouth.
Yeah,
man.
he likes things in his mouth. Pause. You think Tua and Carson Wentz? What do you think there?
Carson's low isn't taking Tua. I'd rather have Tua.
Okay.
Yeah, but Carson's highs, I mean, they aren't really that present, but I'm taking Tua. I'm low on Wentz.
I'm not over this Colts debate still. I had to text Drew and tell him that I had to defend Tua on the show. He said, "You wait till I get till fucking Spain to do this." I said, "I'm sorry, bro. Someone had to do it."
I'm sorry, Drew. I'm saying Drew Sim.
You're doing him dirty.
I'm just keeping it real. This is how I feel.
You I expect this from because is your Tua agenda. I don't have as big of a Tua agenda. I think he's a
I've
fine
said for the
quarterback.
longest that the
You
quarterback.
think he's the 28th best quarterback?
That speaks volumes as to how deep the quarterback position
God.
is. I would take Baker Mayfield.
I mean,
I'd take Mac Jones. That's not crazy to say.
I have not changed on this position. I think when ranking the quarterbacks of the 2019 NFL draft class, or 2020, I believe, it goes Burrow, Herbert, their tier of their own. Just assuming off of like how they've played so far, Hurts.
Shocked.
Then it's Tua. But honestly, I see Jordan Love being that third best guy. He's going to be that third best guy. When it's all said and done, he's going to be that third best guy.
He's simply not.
I'm not trying to disrespect Tua either. I think solid quarterback play. But like I just said, there's like 16 quarterbacks who can be elite week to week, and Tua has not brought teams to the playoffs. Mac Jones has. Baker has almost went to an AFC championship
Mac Jones
game.
got fucking smoked by the Bills. If Tua went to the playoffs in the first game and they lost by 40, are we sitting here and really say anything about it?
It would be holding some meaning because the
Mac
Dolphins
Jones-
don't make
Mac-
the playoffs
Mac
very
Jones-
often. That means something to their franchise.
Mac Jones got smoked by the Bills, but what was his stat line, Joel?
I don't know off the top of my head,
Did he
honestly.
throw an interception in that game?
I don't know.
He
thought
did
he did.
not. He did not. Tua, week 17, faced the Bills. He threw 3
Mac Jones did 2 interceptions.
in that game.
Yeah, it's all right. We move on.
They weren't his fault.
Of course.
You saw them?
Of course.
They weren't his fault.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
It was just great
Sorry,
plays
Jared.
by the defense.
Tua or Jared Goff?
Tua or Jared Goff?
I'm taking Jared Goff.
I'm taking Tua.
Tua or Justin Fields?
Justin Fields.
Justin Fields in any place but Chicago? Or Justin Fields in Chicago?
Just how everything is today. Just, yeah.
Justin Fields is a prospect him. Justin Fields in Chicago, Tua.
Tua or Daniel Jones?
Tua.
Yeah.
I think you have Tua a little bit higher than you're anticipating.
I have him around 23 to 26.
Okay. I have him at 20.
On to the next topic. The Steelers have a little bit of a quarterback dilemma of their own because they have 3 capable guys that can take the mantle week 1, that can maybe do something.
They have 1.5. I don't even know who the half is.
Mitch Trubisky, Mason Rudolph, and Kenny Pickett. Now, John, you've talked to me off the air multiple times, and you've raved about how much you love Kenny Pickett and how much of a franchise quarterback you think he is. So I'm assuming you think Kenny Pickett should win this quarterback battle because you think he's one of those guys that can elevate the Steelers from one of the teams that you don't really care about to a team that, oh, now you're seeing they got a quarterback. That's their guy.
I'm going to be honest with you, Joel. This isn't a quarterback competition. Mitch Trubisky is the week 1 starter. And the fact of the matter is, you bring him in, you look at the Jets, you look at incompetent organizations, they're going to throw a quarterback out onto the fire.
You had to throw that shot out there. That was such a stray.
I got to keep it real. Many organizations, they want to see the franchise quarterback. They're just going to throw him out there and say, go figure it out. Sometimes live, sometimes they're trying to be Sam Darnold. And it's, the quarterback's ruined. He's defective. You look at the Steelers' schedule to start the season, it's a little bit loose. But what the Steelers are going to do, the reason they brought in Mitch Trubisky for 2 years, $14 million, is so they can allow Kenny Pickett to get those mental reps. And then he's going to come in and be the starting quarterback. I expect Mason Rudolph to be traded, and if he can't get moved for a late day 3 pick, he'll probably be cut. So I took a quarterback in the 7th round who can kind of be our new Josh Dobbs. But for the Steelers, ultimately, they're in no rush to start Kenny Pickett because they want him to get those mental reps. He had a really good showing against the Seahawks' 4th-string team in preseason. He was quick, he was decisive, he showed good mobility, and he made a very good throw to Tyler Vaughns for a game-winner 20-yard touchdown. This Steelers team doesn't need Kenny Pickett day one. Ultimately, the defense and Mike Tomlin are going to be what keeps them competitive, and so long as it's not a shootout, the Steelers can beat almost any team in the NFL, outside the ones with a top 7 quarterback. We beat the Bills last year week 1. We can beat almost any team when you have an elite head coach, an elite defense that's got refinement.
The Jaguars beat the Bills last year. Were you saying the Jaguars beat any team?
Okay. That is valid, but the Steelers, there is a level of gravitas in Mike Tomlin.
Yes, he's a great coach.
The way he can promote players, the way he can get the most out of them. He, to me, is a top 5 coach, and even if you're a Mike Tomlin hater, you can't deny it's a top 10 coach that's proven it.
The only argument, I do think Tomlin is a phenomenal coach. The only argument I have against it is the Steelers, their organization, you guys shove it in everyone's faces how many Super Bowls you have. You win all these Super Bowls, whatever. Last 10 years, what has Tomlin done to really accomplish anything in the playoffs?
That is a very, very valid point, but I said this before, not on this show. The best team in the playoffs does not always win.
No, but over a 10-year span, you'd think sometimes they would.
But do you look at the Steelers' injuries with Le'Veon Bell only for 2 playoff runs and then he was gone, and say, oh yeah, with D'Angelo Williams not being healthy, Martavis Bryant often doing the weed, or running backs were Josh Harris, who's now a bodybuilder, Fitzgerald Toussaint, is he in the NFL? Let's think about it after his playoff game, definitely not. And even in the years where James Conner was hurt, was Benny Snell. And look, Benny Snell, I love the nickname. He's terrible.
But I don't disagree. But it's like if it was like a 2-year run where you like had Tomlin and a good court, like it was 10 years really where like you had Ben, you had the quarterback, you had Tomlin, you had the coach, you had weapons. Sure, Le'Veon missed some time, AB missed some time, Martavis, but like overall, damn near every year you guys had weapons and you had defenses. So like you had this decade run.
I think the big thing.
I want to ask this question: is Mike Tomlin just, at least in the past 10 years, is he basically Marvin Lewis?
Oh my God,
that feels rude. Like my soul, that pains me to say. I can't know.
You look at Miles Jack. The Steelers brought him in. A lot of these free agents, players are not going to Cincinnati to play for Marvin Lewis, though he's a fine coach. Players look at Mike Tomlin and say, I want to play for you. There is a standard set in Pittsburgh where it's nothing less than a championship, not a playoff win. And yes, the Steelers not won a playoff game since 2016. I was in the 7th grade, 8th grade then. It's been a long time. And there's 2 reasons for that. I talked about the injuries, unfortunate circumstances. The other is the greatest dynasty in my lifetime. It's the New England Patriots. I mean, straightforward, we were not beating Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski. Defensively, you look at the Steelers, they've put together a great defensive stars, and their linebackers are always going to produce. But there's always been holes. You look at the safety position, we splurge and go draft Terrell Edmunds too early. Same with the Authority Burns. Ari Burns is the definition of a bust. Devin Bush, he looks like a bust. I'm a big Devin Bush guy. In training camp, they're asking him, Devin, what do you feel like you have to prove to make sure in the Steelers next season? He just goes, well, I don't know. Like, what do you mean? Like, well,
not a great answer.
They declined your player option after trading up, making you their highest draft pick in this Plaxico burst. I mean, like, what do you think is the steps so you can make sure you're on the Steelers next year? Like, I'll still be in the NFL, so, we'll see.
You said that?
Yeah, we'll see.
Not great.
As a Steelers fan, I'm the same myself. Last year, this was a guy who was basically no presence in the running game. Now, to be fair, his linebacker coach had an unfortunate passing in his family, so he lost him in the middle of the season. His 2 defensive ends are out. But this dude literally did not try and run defense, and he often was not a presence in pass pro either as an off-ball linebacker. Just saying he was terrible last year. He lost his 2nd season to a torn ACL. We've missed on many draft picks because we often reach on guys. And then when we play New England, Rob Gronkowski or even Chris Hogan tears us up because we can't match up defensively. They're starting to fill out those rough edges, though. You look at Larry Ogunjobi after Stephon Dua unfortunately retired. He was a very solid pickup. Hopefully he can stay healthy. Pickens. I think Miles Jack. We'll talk about
okay. We'll get into it.
Pickens is awesome. The defense is only getting better and better, and you have the stars. I think it's all about continuity with them, and they've had a lot of unfortunate events. But you beat the Jaguars if we have Ryan Shazier and he doesn't get paralyzed. I mean, that in and of itself, I think is one of the 2 or 3 biggest reasons why we didn't go to the Super Bowl.
So because of Ryan Shazier, you couldn't beat Blake Bortles.
Yes, we couldn't stop the run, and then Blake Bortles hung up 45 points on us. And then instead of trading
45.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And their defense
and Ryan
had 4
Shazier
interceptions.
Eliminates 45
He was a Pro Bowler within 3 years.
And then he was fantastic.
And then we go up to get Devin Bush with the 10th overall pick. We could have used that on a cornerback or a safety that would have promoted this defense a little bit further.
And
I think
just
that's
maybe
the reason why we
drafted
haven't
another
won the
bust.
playoffs.
So, but you
drafted another bust.
and you
Yeah,
also
he tore his ACL.
You also just said that you think the Steelers are kind of rounding out the edges of this roster,
Yeah.
and you think you're probably a more complete team now that you have been in years past. Would you agree?
When I look at
Disagree?
the 2019 roster that was 8-5 to start the season, yes.
Okay, but now you have Ben in 2019. Was that the year? No, that was the year you got hurt, right? That was the
Yeah.
Mason Rudolph year. But you look at the quarterback situation you have, you might have a more complete roster, but this is the worst quarterback situation you've had. I mean, Mason Rudolph for a
disagree.
year, but
All right, look, I love Ben. He led the NFL last year in fourth quarter comebacks and game-winning drives. And in the end of the season, he brought his team together and he gave us an opportunity. But Kenny Pickett right now is better than what Ben was last 2 seasons.
I don't
and so
disagree.
was Mitch. And
That's
the reason why is what we're going to see, what we saw in the preseason game. We bring in Matt Canada last year to basically promote a short passing attack because Ben, after having the tendons in his elbow literally ripped off and reattached, by the way, he's 39 years old and he can't move. So he's losing a lot of throwing power and a lot of accuracy on his deep ball because his lower body's not there. No, by the way, he's got the steal as well. Okay.
it's a nice, yeah. You put it in a nice way.
So with that in mind, the Steelers, they couldn't move out the pocket. Matt Canada's trying to promote this college-style offense where he's got the quarterback rolling out. What Kenny Pickett reminds me of is Baker Mayfield and his ability to throw on the run. He's got a good arm. He's more mobile. He's more athletic than Baker. I think they're similar where, hey, look, they're probably not going to be top 10 quarterbacks, but they're going to be well above average.
Baker has a way better arm than him.
Then talking about Baker has way better arm than Pickett or Pickett has way better arm than Baker?
Baker has a better arm than Pickett.
I think Pickett's got a good arm, and I think Baker's got a mini cannon. The fact of the matter is,
Mini cannon's crazy. Go on.
that's reasonable. For a mini guy, he's got a decent one. When you surround this...
Yeah.
Laughing at me?
He said for a minute, guy's got a decent one. Oh, nah.
We're still talking about his arm?
No, we're talking about Kenny Pickett now.
His arm.
No, we're talking about the offense as a whole.
I thought we were talking about his missile. Oh, his cannon, sorry. Real
It's
quick.
kinda weird.
I do think if Kenny Pickett keeps on progressing, I think they should start him. I think he's doing better in training camp. He's promoted to the second team. His first game, he was 7 for 7. Now, I said it on last week's show. He wasn't overly impressive. He just ran the offense. He made one really nice throw.
He was mid.
On the sideline.
That's a good throw.
2, sorry. It was one hash to the opposite sideline and then the game-winning touchdown. I thought those were 2 really nice throws. But for Kenny Pickett, this is a guy who played 5 years at Pitt. He started for 4 years. He has plenty of reps. He's not like someone who only played he was in there as a freshman. He didn't play. He started 2 years and now he's in the NFL. Kenny Pickett has 4 years starting at Pitt. He's an older prospect than a lot of quarterbacks typically are. So I don't think he really needs to sit on the sideline for that long. Sure, if you want to start Mitch for a week or 2 just to get Pickett adjusted a little bit, I understand that. But coming out of the draft, most people's QB 1 and 2 were Malik Willis and Kenny Pickett, whichever way. The biggest reason why people were in favor of Pickett, he was NFL ready. That's what everyone said. He had anticipation. He could throw with touch. He could read an NFL defense. He was been a 4-year starter at Pitt. While Malik Willis had the physical tools, but he wasn't quite ready because he only started 2 years at Liberty. So we're expecting Kenny Pickett coming into draft season. He's NFL ready. He's ready to go. Now, in training camp, he's got better. Preseason, he looked pretty good. Not great, but he controlled the offense. And now all of a sudden we're like, wait, let's see what Mitch has. I think he's been a 4-year starter at Pitt. He has a chance to start.
I think ultimately it doesn't matter because if Mitch starts, he's losing the job by week 6.
Okay.
And then Mason Rudolph, let's say he's a second string quarterback, he's losing the job in 3 weeks.
Pickett's the second string right now.
All right, so that
He's
means
moving up the depth chart, yeah.
Kenny Pickett's starting by week 5, week
No.
6.
So here's the thing. Mitch, he better look over his shoulder because if he has 2 bad weeks, he's gone. Like the Steelers' schedule, they start off in Cincinnati. They're not going to have Pickett start on the road. Then the reason why, let's put it this way. Number one, the gap between Trubisky and Pickett to me is not a gap. I think they're right there neck and neck, quite frankly. But when you invest in a guy, and this is my problem with the Najee Harris pick. When you invest a first-round pick in a guy, you want to push all your chips to that pick hitting. And so with Kenny Pickett, you don't want to throw him out there against the Jets, and then he's got You go up against Josh Allen and Tom Brady, maybe the two best quarterbacks in football, one of which on the road. That's super tough for any young quarterback, and that can kill their confidence to a certain degree. You want to push all those chips, so they're going to go up against Tua in Week 7, and then Jalen Hurts in Week 8. That is when Kenny Pickett will start, because when Mitch Trubisky is thoroughly outmanned against Buffalo and Tampa Bay, after those 2 weeks when the Steelers lose both of those games, he won't be the starter. And like you said, it won't matter, but ultimately you want to push all of it to Kenny Pickett hitting, and the best way to do that is by taking your time with him. And yeah, he's an old head. He'll be 29 by the time June 6th is his birthday. He's on his second contract, but the fact of the matter is you want to still take your time with him to fully develop.
This week in the NFL, mine is Amon-Ra St. Brown naming every single receiver that was drafted in front of him. I thought it was a cool moment. And Lamar Jackson going to halt all negotiations for his contract extension when Week 1 starts, which means that the Ravens have to get a deal done quickly with Lamar Jackson, because maybe he doesn't play if an extension isn't done.
And the report is the Ravens are willing to pay more than what Kyler Murray got.
Oh, they should. He's better than Kyler Murray.
I agree. We'll see if it actually happens. This week in the NFL, Derwin James this morning got extended 4 years, $76.4 million, $19.1 million average, which is the highest for a safety ever, $42 million guaranteed money. Derwin James dealt with injuries throughout his career, but when he's on the field, he is one of the best safeties in the league. He has the skills to and pass the defense, run defense. We know he's one of the most complete safeties in the league. Just stay on the field, be healthy, but well-deserved for Derwin James. I keep struggling with pass defense. It's not pass defense. What pass coverage, I guess?
Yeah.
I struggled twice with that word. That phrase, I guess. Pass coverage? Is that what you go with?
Pass coverage, pass defense. I think it's both the same thing.
So, my this week in the NFL, as a kid, I played football. Number one reason why is Troy Polamalu. And when I watched him as a kid, he just, for many reasons, stood out to me. And I started playing the year after 2012. And that season in college football was a special one for Johnny Manziel. He had the same name as me. Awesome season. And then at Notre Dame, Manti Te'o was taking the football world by storm with a heroic story of him climbing up the Heisman race after the unfortunate passing of his grandmother and his girlfriend. And yesterday, on Tuesday, Netflix documentary comes out on part of the Untold series, which is terrific. The Girlfriend That Never Existed. It's Manti Te'o's documentary. I watched it before, and it was truly heartbreaking. Part of the reason I started playing football is because of college stars like him. And I'm not going to get too deep into it. You should totally watch it if you haven't. I even have a Netflix subscription. I got it just for this.
I got to tune in.
It's a story of Manti just having his dignity stripped from him, and the wealth that he could have gotten as a first-round draft pick, and the personal struggles that came with the story, so embarrassing. And one of my biggest takeaways is, for how quickly the media will build you up, they'll tear you down 2 times faster. Mm-hmm. And so often you don't know the story, but if you're on Twitter, some idiot like me, you're going to be typing away, and you never know what's actually going on. And Manti's story is heartbreaking. There's no other way to put it. It's sad, and it's so unbelievable to think about all of these things happening at the same time. It's so many different sequences of events going against him, and he's a man of faith. It's tragic what happened to him in his NFL career. I felt like, quite frankly, what could have been All-Pro, a Pro Bowl linebacker, all that confidence, it all stripped from him. And I think it's just not just heartbreaking, but it's just devastating in a way.
And it's also, in 2012, this was years before online dating or anything that was really a thing. Like now we think of it so commonly, like everyone who's single has Tinder downloaded, right? And just so common to meet people online. In 2012, that wasn't the case, right? Like you hear this story, like you're meeting someone online, you've been talking to them, you don't even know if they're real. Like during that time period, it seemed so weird, but like looking back 10 years later, you're like, that's where the world was going. So I haven't watched the documentary, but really interested.
How long is the documentary?
2 parts. I think it was about an hour long for each.
Okay. Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. Definitely going to tune in. Who and how tight end edition. Which tight end is going to have a breakout season and how is it going to happen? Joel? You want me to go first?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Joel, go ahead or something. You just stopped at Joel.
Oh, that I just said
okay.
Joel.
You call me Joel. Riv calls me Dehls.
Should I just call you Dehls?
I don't know. I've low-key been torn, like, internally. Should I change my name on Twitter from Joel to Dehls? I feel like that's going to be a big step for me.
It's Joel Dehls.
My @ name. I'm saying, like, my regular name. You know what I'm saying? That's going to be a big day. But we'll get there when we get there. My who and how breakout tight end edition is going to be Kyle Pitts. You know how high I am on him. I think currently he's a top 3 tight end in the NFL. He's one of the best pass-catching tight ends in the NFL, one of the best draft tight end prospects of all time. Last season, second best rookie tight end of all time, the second tight end in NFL history to have 1,000 yards as a rookie, just him and Mike Ditka. Only had 1 touchdown. You could talk to Julio Jones about that. For whatever reason, Matt Ryan does not like throwing touchdowns to his best weapon. And I know Mariota is a downgrade from Matt Ryan, but if you look at the years he had with Delaney Walker, he had some career seasons. His rookie year, Mariota that is, Delaney Walker had 94 receptions, 1,100 yards, and 6 touchdowns. He had 3 straight seasons of 100-plus targets. Mariota's going to target the tight end. Kyle Pitts is electric. He's talented. I'm expecting him to take a step up and be consensus top 3 tight end, not me and my hot takes, as some people would say.
Solid one. You know, Kyle Pitts is tremendous, one of the best tight end prospects, and what that overshadows is a stud tight end in Pittsburgh by the name of Pat Freiermuth. Okay. And that's the first and last time doing this in the show. As a rookie, had 60 receptions, 497 yards, 7 TDs, all while not being the starter week 1. He had 2 concussions as a rookie and a quarterback that couldn't get out the pocket to extend a play or throw it to the middle of the field. Now, whether the starter is Kenny Pickett by season's end or Mitch Trubisky, you're going to have a mobile quarterback that can extend the play, can get him the ball in the middle of the field and in the red zone. While Najee Harris is our go-to guy, Pat Freiermuth is going to be a constant lob target. He's a go-getter. He has amazing hands, very good catch radius. I think he's going to have a tremendous season this year. I'm expecting him to go from 7 TDs to a dozen, 497 yards, to we'll go with 850.
12 touchdowns?
Yeah, man. I see a lot of Tyler Eifert growth in him. The way Eifert became 2015, 13 TDs, I can see a lot of that in Pat Freiermuth, but he's much better. And I can go from 60 receptions to like 75 with, like I was trying to say, 497 yards to we'll go 850. And second guy, I'm not sure if one of you two are going to shout it out, but I'm in Drew Receipt. Alberto, when you talk about a third-year tight end, he's not only going to get Russell Wilson coming in and starting opportunities, but this is a guy who has a ton of talent. He's got the size. He's got the speed. I wouldn't be surprised if he goes from 3 touchdowns to 6 or 7 this year. I mean, he can be a constant game changer, a guy that can create mismatches. He only had 500. No, I'm looking at Tyler Conklin. That's another name. He's going to go from 330 yards this year to, I think, at least 600.
You know, there's only 4 players who had 12 touchdowns or more last year.
Yeah. I think Pat Freiermuth is that good.
Okay. The Cooper Kupp, Mike Evans, Jamar Chase, DK Metcalf.
Pat Freiermuth is special. In the red zone.
Someone on Twitter said that Freiermuth had a better rookie season than Kyle Pitts.
Which I disagree with. But he did have 7 times more touchdowns. So
Matt Ryan. He'll do it to you.
In the red zone. But yeah.
This one is pretty easy for me. It's Alberto. Playing with Russell Wilson, now being the starter in Denver, he's going to double his yardage. He was 5th in yards. He was 5th in yards per route run in the last 2 seasons, and top 10 in yak amongst all tight ends. So I think having him be the number 1 tight end in Denver with Russell Wilson there, I think he's going to have a big time year. And then not only that, but the Tim Patrick injury just opens up more targets for him. I think Albert O is one of the more dynamic players at the tight end position in the league, and he will be a top 10 tight end by the end of the season.
I think, did you say Tyler Conklin?
Yeah, I mentioned him.
Okay.
He's a little honorable.
Yeah. Tyler Conklin, he seems to be solidifying himself as that tight end 1 over CJ Uzomah, even though we gave Uzomah more money and signed him first. Conklin, who is the more explosive tight end in a pass-catching role, has had a real connection with Zach.
And I wouldn't sleep on Isaiah Likely.
Oh, he looked great in the preseason. You have Andrews there, but, I mean, they just don't have pass catchers.
They always have a bunch of different tight ends on there.
They don't have their formations. They're going to use 2 tight ends a lot.
If he can block, it's a plus.
Yes, that's going to be huge for him because he looked good as a receiver.
And on to the next topic, NBA topics for the last 3 segments of the show. LeBron is going to stay with the Lakers. He agreed to a 2-year, $97.1 million deal. It includes a 3rd-year player option, and that makes LeBron the highest-earning NBA player in NBA history with $523 million in guaranteed money. Now, he doesn't have a no-trade clause in his contract, but if he does get traded, he has a 15% trade kicker for that. He is 38 years old, and with this extension, now the Lakers could have north of $20 million in cap space in the 2023 offseason, and they will have a max cap space slot in 2024.
Oh, 2024? Mm-hmm. Is he off the... No, that's his player option.
Russell Westbrook will be off the Bucks.
Yes.
I think this is awesome for LeBron. Shout out to him. He's in Los Angeles for a reason. And look, Drew, you may be listening to this. The fact of the matter is he's not winning another championship with the Lakers. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and all, but when you look at the Lakers' last 2 seasons, you can have reason for, in theory, but they haven't shown you anything to give them the benefit of the doubt. Anthony Davis is crippled, per usual. Maybe this year he can stay healthy. And then you have Russell Westbrook. He's not going to fit there no matter what role you throw in because you have to be an additive player next to LeBron. And Russell Westbrook just isn't, and that's not going to change. I think Darvin Ham is a very good hire, but Lonnie Walker is not going to fix his team. He's a much worse fit than Malik Monk because Lonnie is an isolation scorer. That doesn't work with LeBron James. You're not looking for that. You're looking for a guy who can knock down shots at a high level. He's not going to bring that. And I think that core defensive utility that they had in a guy like Alex Caruso, a lot of that has not been restored with this team. And so I think for LeBron, in terms of staying in Los Angeles, is a great move. And I think his legacy is already solidified. But when we look at LeBron's last few years in the NBA, we're not going to see him go out with a title with the Lakers. That's just not going to happen here because, like I just said before, they've given you nothing to show. This team actually can contend in Western Conference that is only continuing to get more deep.
I've said this a lot on this show, and I'll say it again. The Lakers and LeBron got lucky with the bubble year. I'm talking about in terms from a legacy standpoint because they won a championship, but had it not been for that year, which is a huge, just a weird season, I'm not taking it away from them. I know it counts. We're talking about one of the biggest failures in NBA history in terms of LeBron going to LA and not winning. Every season outside of the bubble has been a complete and utter failure. His first season, he gets hurt. They drop out the playoffs. They miss it. Then the year after the bubble, they lose in the first round with AD and LeBron both on the court, both healthy. They were coming back for injury, but they were playing. Anthony Davis, I know, got hurt in that series. Then this past season, the Russell Westbrook disaster, they missed the playoffs. LeBron has missed the playoffs 50% of the time in LA. They're probably missing the playoffs this upcoming season. It doesn't matter if they're going to have a max cap slot in 2024 because LeBron's going to be 40 years old, and LeBron's time is done. I know he's still a top player in the league, but his time of going to the playoffs and getting out the first round and making these runs, they're done. They're over with. It's not happening again. This extension made it clear. LeBron just wants to live in LA. He wants to retire there, and he doesn't care about winning a championship again. He doesn't. And also, Bronny's eligible to be drafted in 2024. So if he's a top prospect, then the Lakers and LeBron won't have a say in where he goes. But let's say he's not and he's an undrafted free agent, then, yeah, it gives him a clear pathway to go to the Lakers and play with LeBron.
I feel the same way. First of all, shout out LeBron, most guaranteed money of all time by a player, first or second best player in NBA history, however you want to slice it, as long as it's Jordan LeBron. I'm not going to argue with you. I feel the same way. I think this just solidifies that this is the last stage of LeBron's career. If this was 32-year-old LeBron, he wanted to win another championship, he's not signing this extension. I know you kind of scoffed when he said they're not going to make the playoffs, and I feel like a lot of people feel that way too, because when you have AD and LeBron, you're almost expecting that these two guys can elevate teams and just make it work. We'll figure it out. This roster sucks. Like, there's no way around it. This roster is bad. The Russell Westbrook experience last year wasn't good. This year with the new head coach, we're hoping offensively, the big plan is put him in the corner so he can shoot corner threes. Lock in defensively. Things that Russell Westbrook really has not done throughout his career. Now you're expecting him at a later age to do that as a number 3 option. I don't think he's really going to get behind it. And you also have the rumors of AD being the number 1 option offensively. It sounds great. Can AD play 50 games? Who knows? If he's not going to be on the court for half the games, how can he be your number 1 option? So this all falls back on LeBron. The only thing I'm really interested in here is I think he wants to stay in LA just because his family's there, his kids go to school there and everything. And he has like his whole thing with HBO. He produces shows and movies and stuff like that. But I'd be curious if, management has something in place for Kyrie, or at least the rumor is they're willing to give up 2 first-round picks now, which should be a no-brainer. Like, at this point, go all out, try to get Kyrie, because I would much rather have him than Westbrook as my number 2 or 3 option, depending if AD is able to stay on the court. So I'm curious if, when they sign the extension, like, hey, Kyrie's a real possibility. We're willing to give the 2 first-round picks. We're just waiting on KD to get traded first or something like that. So that's the only thing I'm curious about, because if they do get Kyrie, makes things a little bit more interesting. But for now, this just solidifies LeBron's in the last stage of his career, and he's cool just riding to the sunset.
Yeah, I got to be honest with you. Saying the Lakers LeBron tenure has been a failure. Like, I get it. The Lakers' expectation year in and year out is championships. But what do we play for?
Championships.
And they've won a championship.
It's been mostly a failure.
25% of the time they've hit. 75% of the time they've not lived up to expectation, in part to injuries, in part to not buying into the coach, in part of highly incapable roster moves and transactions and what have you. But, I mean, you can't look at that and say it's a failure. They've talked about this in the show, Drew. It's a disappointment, a major disappointment, because Anthony Davis should be a top 5 player in the game. But in reality, like you said, the bubble, the reason the Lakers got lucky was because they had a 4-month hiatus, so Anthony Davis's body was in the right shape. And his shots were going in then. Anthony Davis is not this renowned jump shooter that he was in the bubble. I mean, let's just keep it a buck. And that's why people are saying, this dude's top 5. Well, PJ Tucker and all these guys are saying, you have to let him make these shots because that's a win for us, so long as he's not getting into the paint. But realistically, he's not going to make those shots again. You look at his work ethic when he's shown you the last 2 seasons, there's nothing to suggest we can give this guy the benefit of the doubt. But shout out to LeBron. I'm happy for him. It's just really sad he's going to ride into the sunlight with a crippled AD and not really much else to show outside a highly incapable front office, in my opinion. But I will say, with Darvin Ham, I scoffed because the Lakers missed the playoffs last year, not just because of Russell Westbrook, but they gave up on the season. Why? They weren't into Frank Vogel. Darvin Ham is a former player, a player's coach, and he just wants to learn something from each of his stops in Atlanta, Milwaukee. He was in the Lakers in 2010. And I think for them, this was a brilliant hire because you can rebuild with him. You can try to win now with him. He's a tough guy. It's not going to put up with any BS. In the end, are they a contender? No way. The team's not good enough. But it's hard to say they won't make the playoffs with a little new juice, a little more energy to get this team into the defensive end of the ball where they can be a top 10 defense. I think realistically they can be, even with Anthony Davis playing only 55 games.
Are they a better team than the Kings, roster-wise? The fact that you have to think about it tells me you think the Kings are a better roster.
Thing is, like, if there was just one play-in game, I would take the Lakers.
It all comes down to the play-in.
If it's Lakers versus Kings in the play-in, I'll take the Lakers.
I'm taking the Lakers.
De'Aaron Fox is cooking Westbrook.
Dude, they have LeBron James. Like,
And
for one
Sabonis
game,
is cooking AD.
for one
Not
game,
playing.
like, that's it's tough. But for one game, if you said they're playing each other, I'm taking the Lakers.
I think it's very kind of you to promote the Kings in a positive light. And, like, I think they had a cute off season, but like you just hit the nail on the head. When it comes down to play-in, no matter what you think, these are playing teams. And you just got to win 1 or 2 games. So, yeah, I'm going with the Lakers, but I did have to think about that.
Giannis recently said in a press conference when he was asked a question if he'd ever consider playing in Chicago that he said, I think anybody you ask that question plays basketball. If he said no, he'd be a liar. It's a team that won multiple championships. It's a team that has one of the greatest players ever, if not the greatest player to ever play this game, played for. So it's a no-brainer. Everybody would love to play for Chicago. Now, what are the odds this actually happens, that Giannis is a Chicago Bull? Now, he has 4 years remaining on his contract, which means that DeMar won't be there. Vucevic won't be there. LaVine will probably still be there. He'll be there. Lonzo, maybe he'll be there. Caruso, possibly. I don't know. What does a Giannis and LaVine core sound like?
If I'm a Bulls fan, that sounds fucking hot. I'm in. The question is, will Giannis actually go to Chicago? And at first glance, it seems unlikely, right? If you look at Giannis' contract, he signed till he's 31, 32 years old through like 2027 or whatever it is, right? So from a contract perspective, it's like, no, it's probably not going to happen. But John, we were talking, before the show, and if you really break down the Bucks roster, Khris Middleton's getting up there in age, and we don't really know if Jrue Holiday is that number 2 guy that could lead you to a championship. But in today's NBA, where we see Kevin Durant sign a 4-year extension and then pick the coach, and then the next year say, oh, I want out, anything's possible. If Giannis for the next couple of seasons, whether Khris Middleton goes down again or something happens to him, or, we saw Brooke go down, whoever it might be, if they're not in the finals over the next 2 years, it's not out of the realm of possibility that he demands a trade. Now, it is pretty tough, I think, to say, I demand a trade, I want to go to one team. That's going to be pretty hard. You're really tying Milwaukee's hands at that point because they have no leverage there. If you say, I'm only going to Chicago and nowhere else, it's going to be hard for them to get a deal done. So I think overall, Giannis probably isn't going to stay with the Bucks his entire career. He'll eventually maybe end up at Chicago, but does Giannis end up in Chicago as this Giannis, that MVP, best player in the league Giannis, or 3-4 years down the line when he's 30 plus years old, what does he look like? Because as of right now, his game doesn't look like it's going to age well, but as we've seen, he has progressed as a jump shooter and three-point shooter, a bit inconsistent, but we know he's a hard worker. We know he's someone who goes into the offseason, works on his game. So I don't put it past him that he's able to, improve his game to the fact that he could age a lot better than it is now, where it's just a lot more physicality and athleticism. But it's going to be hard for him to get to Chicago with the way his current contract is situated.
Now, Giannis is very generous. These comments are very generous. I mean, he talked about how, who wouldn't want to play for the Bulls, for a team that has won multiple championships? That was in the 90s. That was 20 years ago, 20-something years ago, 25 years ago. Giannis is being extremely generous. I'm not going to say I think he's lying, but if he seriously thinks that, I think there's something wrong with Giannis in terms of his thought process when thinking about Chicago. There's no way this happens. And there's no way that I think other players, I believe this, that they want to play in Chicago. If there's a team you want to play for, I think it's New York. It's the Mecca. You want to go to the Garden. You want to be under
bias.
You want to be in the bright lights. You want to be playing with the blue and the orange on your jersey.
And they said that about LeBron too.
And I think, Giannis, I wish they would have asked him a better question. I wish they would have asked him, if you could pick between New York and Chicago, what would you rather have? And I think he'd go New York because it's the Mecca. It's basketball.
That hasn't gotten any big free agent.
Chicago, as good as their offseason was as good as their offseason was the past offseason, let's be serious. This team has a limited ceiling. They're not going very far, and they're stuck. So they better hope they do get Giannis, because if they don't, this team is probably just going to be stuck in mediocrity and not go anywhere.
Giannis is going to his 10th season in Milwaukee. You see the best buck in franchise history?
He's going to be.
Is he right now if he retired today?
Probably is.
Yes or no?
He is.
It's not ridiculous.
Sound like OG now.
Yes,
I'm asking him or Kareem. They both brought a title. My pick is Giannis.
I was gonna say I saw Giannis. I've witnessed him, so I'm biased there.
Now, first off, yes, New York is the basketball mecca, and while Chicago is not reeled in any free agents outside Carlos Boozer and washed up Pau Gasol, New York's not racking free agents either.
Pau Gasol was not washed up.
He was at the end of his career.
DeMar would have been your biggest free agent signing of my lifetime.
Carmelo?
That was a trade where you gutted your entire roster
Amari
to get him.
Stoudemire?
Oh, okay. Towards the
His
end of his
first
career,
season
I would
was
say he was. Yeah, his first year he
good.
was great.
Let's see what DeMar does. He could drop off.
That's fair. Okay, Amari's fair.
And with the Bulls, you were saying the next praises when they made the top 4 seed, and you were saying there'd be a number 4 seed in 2021. The Bulls, for the better part of last season, were the number 1 seed in the Eastern Conference.
It's not going to happen again.
I agree with you. But, hey, if you're going to give DeMar $85 million, I'll take that if he can make us relevant after not making the playoffs in 5 years and a failed rebuild. So, and also with Giannis, the other thing, too, is he's sincere. He's going to say it how it is. But, dude, there's a good chance Giannis does not stay in Milwaukee for the rest of his career. We're talking about it. Khris Middleton had the same knee injury twice last year, and he's now 31 years old. And truth be told, he is what makes them a contender. Giannis is what takes them to the highest level, but Khris Middleton is that guy. He is a terrific number 2, and without him, you're not a contending team. Drew Holiday is very good defensively. Why are you looking at me funny?
How are they not a contending team?
Because you have no one that could run a pick and roll, no one that can give you a buck from the perimeter without Khris Middleton.
It took the Celtics, who made the finals, to 7 games.
Merely because of Giannis Antetokounmpo and Brook Lopez protecting
because
the rim.
Giannis by himself can take you that far.
And that's
why they're a
the
contender.
Celtics not really putting it together until the end of that series, and Mike Budenholzer.
So it's just funny how
letting Grant Williams shoot wide open.
Khris Middleton, before this past playoff run where they won the finals, was viewed as the liability. He was viewed as the guy that
no one was saying that.
Liability.
No one was calling him a liability.
He had games where he disappeared. He had games where he
disappeared. What are you talking about?
But he was still very good defensively.
They were talking about Khris Middleton as, can you actually win with him being your second guy?
No, they weren't. They're talking
Yes,
about
they
Giannis
were.
being. You were making videos and Giannis saying, can you win with Giannis as your number 1 guy? No one was talking about Khris Middleton.
Because you need a better second guy. That's why.
No.
Chris Middleton proved it last year in a playoff
games
run.
versus the Nets.
He had a lot of down games. In the playoffs, he routinely does not perform to his level.
Now look at Jrue Holiday, one of the most inconsistent playoff performers in offense. There's games where he can't make a layup, he can't make a three, he can't do nothing. That's
the fact that you said
scorer?
Chris Middleton took them over the top. Are you serious?
That's not
you're
lying on my name. You're lying on my name. Don't do that.
He literally said
Giannis takes them over the top, and he took that and said,
you said Khris Middleton makes them a contender.
Yes. Without him, you're not a true contender because Giannis can only do so much consistently year after year.
I understand his logic.
Bro.
Giannis is not going to do this for the next 4 years with no Khris Middleton.
Would the Bucks beaten Miami in the conference finals?
With no Khris Middleton? No, they were not beating Miami with no Khris.
Well, they took Boston to 7. And, let's say the Bucks and he goes
that Miami defense would have tore them to shreds.
You think so?
Absolutely. Because Grayson Allen was your best scorer. I mean, like I said, Jrue Holiday is so inconsistent. He's just a constant invariable. You can't rely on him. He can't run a pick and roll consistently enough. Why are you looking at me funny? He's a very good defender.
You can argue he was the second most valuable player on the Bucks championship run.
But you need both of them, is what I'm getting at here. And Khris Middleton, because of what he can do as a scorer, can offer 40 points, while being above average to very good defender, is more valuable than Jrue, who's a 6'3" guard that can't really switch on bigger wins. He can't guard a Kevin Durant or a LeBron James.
Get that extra inch.
That matters.
He's thick too. He's strong. Wow. He can't guard a LeBron. He can't guard a KD.
Khris Middleton can.
He has more size too, and offensively he can give you 40 points.
Who was guarding KD in the playoffs when they made the finals run? Was it Khris Middleton or who was it?
It was PJ Tucker.
Okay, right. Who was routinely guarding the better players on the opposing end?
I'm not denying
was it Khris Middleton?
Was a better defender. He's a much better defender.
Khris
Middleton provides more value to this team as a ball handler, initiator, and scorer.
Offensively.
But here's the thing. He's way more consistent defensively, and he brings value in that end as well.
Who's more consistently defensively?
Khris Middleton's defense is more consistent than Jrue Holiday's offense.
What?
Jrue Holiday is not reliable on offense in the playoffs. In the regular season, he'll give you 19 points per game, an above-average playmaker, and he's going to be efficient. But in the postseason, we've seen for 2 years now, he can't be this elite perimeter defender, and at the same time, a guy that's going to consistently be number 3 scorer. And if you're asking him to be number 2, you're over your head because he's shown he can't do that. Last year, it was ugly in that Boston series. It was not pretty, and we saw the same thing in 2021.
Do you think if Middleton, say he's not on the Bucks for whatever reason, are the Bucks still consistently championship contenders with just Giannis, Jrue Holiday, and pieces?
If they marginally upgrade. Or no, not if they upgrade, but if they replace Middleton with a player that maybe that's not on his level, but a little bit below him, yes.
What are some realistic names they can acquire?
I think if they had, they can't require him, but I think they can't acquire him. But if they had Desmond Bane, they're the same.
They're not getting him.
I know they're not getting him, but I'm saying
it's about realistic stuff.
A player of that level.
Okay,
I mean, just to name, I think.
Name me a realistic candidate to replace Khris Middleton in 3 years where maybe these knee injuries pile up, but he's not getting more than 14, 15 points a game, and he loses a lot of that juice.
Let's just say Buddy Hield.
Yeah, it's not counting.
As a floor spacer, that'd help him a lot.
But you need an initiator. That's what an initiator and a go-to bucket.
You need
Buddy Hield's a volume
without that initiator. Giannis still was averaging 30+ in the playoffs.
We're talking about winning a championship here. We're not talking about Giannis is terrific. He's the best player in the NBA.
They took the team that went to the finals to 7 games.
But to win a championship, you need all those pieces of the puzzle, and you're missing several without Khris Middleton.
So Khris Middleton is the end-all, be-all for the Bucks winning a championship or not winning.
You have to replace him with somebody who's at least going to give you 80% of his. You're massively underrating a guy that's top 30, top 35, and a terrific fit next to Giannis. I mean, there may not be a better fit.
I'm not underrating him. I'm just saying, when I watched the finals, it was Giannis who dropped 50 in the closeout game versus the Suns in Game 6, right?
But who brought them there when Giannis was down against the Hawks?
Middleton.
And
he had a great game.
He has those moments where they're invaluable.
Then he has those moments where he's shit.
But even still, he's providing a ton of value. He's a very good defender.
Let's not act like that's literally the first playoff run. Khris Middleton was consistent, and he was really only consistent in home games.
So do you remember that series against the Bucks where they took y'all to 7? He made that ridiculous game winner, and he averaged 24 on basically 60% shooting. I guess that just slipped. And
Khris Middleton kills it. Like, he is the Celtic killer. He always destroys us.
Yeah, no, that was his only 2020 only good playoff.
He destroys us. Basically, I feel like every time we play the Bucks, Khris Middleton
playoff run is not a
us.
series. I hope you know that. That's not me once.
They got knocked out in 7.
Khris Middleton, you're talking about the 1920 season, right?
No, I'm talking about 2018. Come on, get your hand in the game. 7 games.
Listen, 2019-2018 season when Milwaukee, they faced the Magic and the Heat. That was the bubble year. I'm going to go through them. Khris Middleton averaged 20 points. He averaged 6 assists, 7 rebounds, shot 39% from field and 35% from three.
You're avoiding.
You're talking about the 7-game sample size.
Yeah,
yes, where he averaged
25, 5, and 5 on 60% shooting.
Yes, and they fucking lost. So he played great and he lost.
You said that was his only time he showed up in the playoffs, but he's shown many times.
I said for a consistent playoff run. That's one series, bro. We're going to count that as a playoff run? One series is a playoff run?
That was such an impressive and terrific feat. I consider it. I think about it because it was amazing. They lose in 5 games without him. I mean, he took them to a game 7.
What about in 2018, 2019? When they lost in the conference finals to the Raptors. What about that series?
It's a bad series for Khris Middleton.
Oh, let me see how bad it was. Wow. Khris Middleton averaged 14 points.
But I'm not talking about production. I'm talking
in the
about
conference
value.
finals.
I'm talking about value he brings to his team. Without that value, they lose. With that value, they win a championship. So that's the variance. With him, you win a championship.
And with him, he's
well.
inconsistent though. He's an inconsistent playoff performer.
But the totality of what he brings you is so necessary to this team to contend at the highest
I'm not
level.
saying that they don't need Khris Middleton. I'm saying that he can be replaced.
It's hard to replace this guy when you're picking in the late 20s each and every single
year. And
year.
ultimately, it's Giannis makes them go, and Giannis makes them contenders. It's both.
But you're going to notice Giannis can't give you 75 games in the next 4 seasons as he turns 31 years old.
Why not?
Without a Khris Middleton. Because it's unrealistic for any player his game is so physically demanding. It's unrealistic. He has had to play center this last season with Brook Lopez not being healthy. You're undervaluing the physicality of the NBA game, and you're playing the center spot, and you're constantly bumping and bruising with tougher guys that weigh 250.
Wait, so now it's about
pounds.
Khris Middleton being injured. Now it's about Brook Lopez being injured.
You're missing what
we're talking about Khris Middleton at first. Now we're talking about Brook Lopez.
When Giannis has to carry the load the way he did in that Boston series for over an entire season, that Khris Middleton may not be present, all while consequently playing center because Brook Lopez is getting to that age coming up back surgery where he's not going to be that reliable starter. Yeah, Giannis is more susceptible to be hurt because there's more wear and tear. There's more mileage in his body.
Nobody's talking about susceptibility to be hurt. We're talking about Giannis, even with Khris Middleton being hurt, took Boston to 7. Took a team and made the finals to 7. He ultimately could have beat that team.
But that's not
They had a chance to beat that team.
That's not sustainable long term. It's not. You can't expect him to do that.
So you don't think if there's a series where Khris Middleton is hurt,
the entire thing,
Giannis can't put the Bucks on his back and clutch out that series.
If they're playing a Miami,
you don't think there's no way that happens.
If they're playing Boston, Malcolm Brogdon, Miami, or heck, even Philadelphia, no, he's not beating those teams that are more complete. He's not. Why are you looking at me funny?
I'm not. I'm just looking at you. I normally look at people. I'm not looking at you funny. I think that's a valid point. But that's not what you were originally saying. You said Khris Middleton makes them contenders.
And as he ages, if these knee injuries continue to pop up and he regresses and you can't replace that value that he brought to the table.
You're saying the Bucks are done.
I'm not saying they're
done. That's what you're basically saying.
They're still going to
You're saying if Khris Middleton is not who he is, the Bucks are done as contenders.
They're not top flight, top 3 team in the East, but they're still a quality playoff team. They get to the second round each and every single season, but I don't know if we win a championship in 4 straight playoff series without that type of player next to him. It's just not realistic. And I think if Giannis sees that.
They just drafted Christian Braun's on the team, right?
He's on the Nuggets.
He's on the Nuggets,
so
right?
Marjan Beauchamp.
Joel, do you think,
he's good.
say Khris Middleton leaves, they replace him, not the same caliber, a couple tiers down, then are you expecting Jrue Holiday to be the number 2 and Giannis could still carry them in a championship?
I think that as long as they have an offensive option that's good, that Jrue Holiday can now take a back seat and focus solely on defense, they'll be fine. Jrue Holiday.
Where is the scoring and pick and roll initiating coming from? Grayson Allen, who is a total liability on defense.
He just literally said we're replacing Khris Middleton with a player.
I know, but I'm saying not to Khris Middleton's caliber.
If they can replace him with like a Karis LeVert,
oh my,
they'll be fine.
You saw him in the playing game. He couldn't even.
He averaged 20 and 10 in the playoffs. What are you talking about?
Karis LeVert was not in the postseason this last year.
In the bubble, he averaged 20 and 10 in the playoffs against the Raptors. Did you not see that series?
That was a 4-game sample size.
You just used a 7-game sample size for Khris Middleton.
That was a meaningless series that he was not going to win and got killed. He didn't even win a single game. Khris Middleton won 3 games.
So you're talking about...
Oh, stop. Karis LeVert is not good. He's a spark plug.
I was going to say, Karis LeVert
he's not good.
Karis LeVert's good, but he's a few tiers down from Middleton.
First off, Karis LeVert, I love him as a person. Amazing story. But paying him $18 million
What about
a
if
year.
the
Hey, let me speak.
What
Paying
about
him
if the
$18
Bucks
million
call
a year to
Sexton?
constantly be injury prone and oh, by the way, he's not a good defender. He's not reliable, not a consistent enough playmaker. All he's going to really do for you is be consistently
What if they get Colin
inconsistent and
Sexton?
injured. Colin Sexton I like, but even still, he's not that same type of wing player that they need. He's lacks
No,
size.
he's not a wing player they need, but I'm saying
He's
that
good.
still gives you the offense that you need that could possibly replace Khris Middleton's offense.
You want that size. I think Sexton give him 85% of that production. I think with Sexton, yeah, you're a low-end contender.
So Sexton, yes. Karis LeVert, absolutely not.
Karis LeVert's not very good. I hate to
What
break
about
it to you.
Buddy Hield?
No, he's
As
just
a floor
volume,
spacer?
He's just a volume 3-point shooter. That's not taking you to the next level. It's not. That's basically what Grayson Allen is.
Well, Khris Middleton takes you to the next level.
Yes, he's a bona fide all-star. He's awesome. He's terrific for what they need.
I'm just saying, I mean, had it not, I know Khris Middleton was great, but had it not been for Giannis being historically fucking great, they don't do shit.
I am well aware Khris Middleton's not making you a contender, but in order for Giannis to win at the highest level,
50.
he needs Khris Middleton
He had
next to him.
50.
He needs a Robin, just like every superstar has ever needed.
But
That's what I'm saying. He
is it
pieces
not
the
a
puzzle.
fact that Giannis has the worst Robin amongst all duos that have a Robin?
No, I would take him over many Robins, quite frankly. I would take Khris Middleton over Anthony Davis. In terms of who I'd rather have, yes. Who is
Fully
better?
healthy?
No, because Anthony Davis is not fully healthy. Stop living in La La Land. The reality is Anthony Davis is not fully healthy. So I don't know why we don't take into account the fact that he's not usually healthy, because the reality is we live in reality, don't we? Not La La Land.
Are you taking Khris Middleton? Are you taking the Bucks finals run Khris Middleton or the bubble Lakers run Anthony Davis?
If I'm the Lakers, I would rather have Khris Middleton if he's going to be healthy at the same time. Yeah. Because Khris Middleton's got these knee issues. If that's an issue for him, then yes, I'd rather have Anthony Davis.
Wait, hold on. So you think the Lakers win the title? Like get Davis off the team, Middleton's on the team.
They're not
They win a
winning
title
20
with fucking Khris Middleton?
They're not. But right now, you're asking me
at
who
this
I'd rather have. Right now, I'd rather have Khris Middleton because
So right
he's a
now, you'd
better
rather
value
have the guy
fit.
who's 31, who you just said had 2 of the same injuries, rather than a guy, Anthony Davis, who's much younger, who maybe he does stay healthy.
If you listen to what I said, if those knee issues aren't a big concern, he's healthy, I'm
Khris
taking
Middleton.
Khris Middleton. Yes, because he can consistently bring it for me and at least stay healthy. This
But
is
you
one of
know-
the best perimeter scorers in the game.
But if both stay healthy, AD's ceiling, Middleton's ceiling. It's different levels
But
here.
Khris
fucking
Middleton,
gap.
yes, but Khris Middleton is giving me reason to give him the benefit of the doubt. Anthony Davis has not over the last 2 years.
That's fair.
The bubble run was, I hate to break it to people, you can call that a benefit of the doubt because he won a title, but he had a 4-month hiatus. He's never going to get
Agreed.
that again.
Agreed.
So, I mean, he was literally playing in Disney. I mean, talk about La La Land and Anthony Davis being healthy. There it is right there. You get him
We're
healthy,
going to move
get him
on
making
after
shots.
this. Who's better, Khris Middleton or James Harden?
Khris Middleton.
Fucking casual.
Right now, Khris Middleton against James Harden in the playoffs. I'm taking Khris Middleton. James Harden got outscored by Max Strus in the playoffs and PJ Tucker, and you're gonna look at me crazy. PJ Tucker outscored him in the postseason in an elimination game. Why are you looking at me funny?
You think Khris Middleton's better in the playoffs than James Harden?
Yeah, James Harden's not very good
That's pretty dumb, bro.
plus.
I'm gonna be honest. That's pretty dumb.
all time. Yes, I'd rather have James Harden overall.
You're
but
basing
right now in
Khris Middleton
2022
being better than James Harden in the playoffs by literally 1-2 series.
What I've seen in the last 2 years, yeah, James Harden hasn't been
What
healthy
do you
in
mean?
2020.
In Brooklyn, he was averaging with the playoff series he was in versus Boston. He averaged 24.
You're
and
getting
10.
mad at me for the
What are you
7-game
talking
sample
about?
size. He just
That was
used
the
another
5-game.
5-game sample size.
What about
which is
before
small.
that? What about before that when he was in Houston? He averaged 30 in the bubble.
How do you do in the elimination games exactly? Remind me.
In the elimination game, he had 20 plus.
In the elimination games that counted.
Well, he's the guy. He's the guy on his team. Khris Middleton's not the guy on his team.
Yes, but
What is Khris Middleton doing as the guy on the team? He's not doing
Maybe
shit.
making the playoffs.
He's not making the playoffs. He's not doing
But you're
shit.
asking me 2022. You're not asking me all the time. 2022, I'd rather have Khris
What
Middleton.
are we talking about? James Harden from literally last year.
2020
Averaged 24 and 10 in the playoffs when he was
2021, sure.
healthy.
But 2021 James Harden's different than 2022
You just
James-
told me
James
Khris
Harden.
Middleton's a better playoff performer than James Harden, bro.
The last few years, yeah. Last couple of seasons.
What do you mean last few years?
James Harden was terrible this last year in the postseason and was not healthy in
That's
2021.
1 year. That's not last 2
The
years.
year before he wasn't healthy.
The year before he was averaging 24 and 10 in the when he faced Boston.
And
He
that
aver-
there was
he got hurt in the
there was
first. He
no-
got hurt in the literally the first 2 minutes of the
Yeah,
Bucks
that
series.
was unfortunate. There was
What are
no
you
pressure.
talking
There was
about?
no pressure in that Celtics series because playing next to Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving.
Oh, okay. What about in Houston when he averaged 30 in the bubble? What about the year before that when he averaged 30?
I'm saying those seasons.
What are we
I'm taking
talking
James-
about? The
those
last few
seasons, I'm
years,
taking James
it's
Harden.
not close.
We're agreeing. Those seasons, I'm taking James Harden. The last 2 years, I'm taking Khris Middleton.
He's literally comparing Khris Middleton's best playoff run to James Harden's worst one and saying, yeah,
But that
that's why
wasn't.
Khris Middleton is better.
His best series was in 2018, 4 or 5 years ago.
And that's better than anything Khris Middleton has ever done.
I'm talking about Khris Middleton, not James Harden.
And that, yeah, James Harden at his worst is comparable to Khris Middleton.
You and I are in agreement here. You just asked me right now who I'd rather have, and I said Khris. That's it.
Where does Khris rank for you, like, among players? He top, like, 20 player?
No. I got him, like, top 35, but I think...
I was going to say, the names are taking over him, though, are, like AD, James Harden, like, injuries, I know.
Yeah, but James Harden's not a good defender, and Khris Middleton's an above average one. And I've, right now...
Still one of the better playmakers in the league.
Oh, he's top 5. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying.
But
Yeah, you
you're
lack on
looking
defense,
for a guy
but-
that can take over as a scorer. The playmaking can only get you so far when, once again, you're getting outscored by role players in the
But Harden,
elimination game.
I mean, it's not like Harden gave you 15 last playoff series. Like, he was still giving you buckets.
He's giving it 21, but it was on 41% shooting. Yeah, not very impressive, particularly.
I'm not even a big Harden guy, but I would take my chances with Harden and his playmaking and scoring ability. Then
If
Middleton
Harden's
gives you
healthy and-
defense, but
You like overrating weird players, bro.
I think you have to look at the value in a wing player
And
that can
shitting
do it all.
on all-time greats.
No, I think James Harden's a terrific top 5 shooting guard of all time. I love James Harden. I'm just saying right now I'd rather have Khris Middleton.
But you did say Khris Middleton's a better playoff performer.
Last 2 seasons, that's it. And discussion.
Last topic of the show. The Knicks and Jazz are starting to talk about Donovan Mitchell again, and they're re-engaged in trade talks. Now, after several weeks of no conversations, the New York Knicks and the Utah Jazz recently re-engaged in trade talks centered around Donovan Mitchell, league sources told The Athletic. Now, I think this is great. The Knicks have to get this deal done no matter what, because maybe John here might tell you Khris Middleton is just as valuable as Donovan Mitchell, but I wouldn't agree with that because I think Donovan Mitchell's a playoff superstar. He's one of the best playoff performers in the league, and I've been saying it all offseason. If we get Donovan Mitchell, the Knicks are a top 6 seed in the Eastern Conference. Jalen Brunson, D. Mitch, RJ, Randall,
Why are you
Mitchell
throwing
Robinson.
Randall in there?
That is going to be a tough team to compete with
Why are you throwing in Randall if he doesn't fit in there? That's
because he's going to be on our team.
But he doesn't fit in there. It's not a positive. You're listening as if it's a positive along with Jalen Brunson coming in. And
It is a
RJ.
positive.
It's not. Julius Randle is not fit on that team. Last year we saw regression to the mean. He's not a very good shooter. He's not a very good floor spacer. 41% shooting, is fluky in 2021. He's not going to get back to that level, and I wouldn't be surprised if he's playing off ball, he doesn't get back to 35%.
Yeah, I think he's going to get back to 35, 36% from 3. There's no doubt.
There's no doubt.
You can call Julius Randle fluky all you want, but the fact of the matter is that even at his worst, he's a 19 to 21 point per game scorer who can average double-digit rebounds, who when he shows effort on defense is a good defender, and he's a very athletic player.
And what did they get you last season?
We weren't very good, but what did that get us in 2020? They got
first
us,
round
they
exit.
got us
You
a
got
playoff
one playoff win.
They got
Congrats.
us a playoff berth in the
and
last
you were
8
embarrassed by
seasons.
Trey Giannis
Yeah.
Hawk at the
Let
following
me ask
season
you-
that we're lost in 5 games.
Julius Randle made All-NBA second team. Has Khris Middleton ever made an All-NBA team?
I mean, if Khris Middleton played in New York, he probably would be overrated just like Randall. So.
Has he ever made an All-NBA team? Let me ask you.
No,
that. He has never achieved that. He won't ever achieve that. We can.
The reason why I
right?
overrate these weird players is because they aren't ceiling limiting. Julius Randle limits your ceiling in ways because the effort is not always there defensively.
Not
The
if Julius
fit
Randle
is
is one of
You
your
can fit
third, fourth best players.
I love Khris Middleton because you can fit him on almost any team in the league, and I think in Milwaukee he's in a great spot for himself. Where he doesn't have to be number 1. Guess what? He's playing off the best player in the NBA.
Well, what
It's
happens?
perfect for
Well,
him.
what happens if Khris Middleton isn't number 1? Can he do what Julius Randle did in the bubble in the isolated year? Can he do that?
I don't know why you're pretending the Knicks defense wasn't the reason they made the playoffs. It wasn't Julius Randle. He was just fine enough.
Was he not a good defender that year?
Julius Randle was fine on
He was
very
their
good
best player.
defense.
Was he not a good defender that year?
Yeah, but they had a top 10, top 3 defense. Top
Was he
5,
not
that's
a
what-
good defender that year?
He was fine. He was fine.
If you
Above
say he was
average.
just fine, that's ridiculous because he was a good defender that year.
When you're surrounding him with very good defenders, Reggie Bullock, RJ Barrett, Mitchell Robinson, who had a great year for them, and even Elfrid Payton in the starting lineup, he's going to look better because the guys surrounding him. He was
but
fine.
answer my question though.
He was above average.
Can
playing in a
Khris
great
Middleton
unit.
do what Randle did, taking a team to the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference? Can he do that?
If you put Khris Middleton on that next team, they can make the playoffs because they're still going to be a top 10 defense. They're going to have a
That
very
year,
good score.
right?
Yes, because their defense was what got them into the playoffs. It was not their offense. They had the 23rd ranked offense in the NBA. So stop pretending Julius Randle's like out in the playoffs. Don't spew that at me. Come on.
Did you not see the Julius Randle average 24, 10, and 5?
It was an impressive season. I think
he was
awesome.
He's one of the only players ever to average those numbers while shooting 40% from 3.
And what
are
is
we
he in the
talking
playoffs?
about here?
What is he in the playoffs?
He wasn't good in the playoffs.
Yeah, couldn't go right.
Well,
bad.
I mean, but
He was terrible.
He was bad.
The fact that you're acting like Julius Randle was some garbage player is just ridiculous.
Did I call him garbage?
You didn't. No, you
You
didn't.
ins-
I just
you-
said their defense
you
won me the
insi-
playoffs.
Did he
and
not
Julius Randle is the
Did he
second
not
player.
insinuate that he was garbage?
I don't think he insinuated he was garbage.
I don't think
He literally said, "Why'd you mention Randall? That's a negative." That's what he said.
No,
He
he's
doesn't
talking
fit
about
right
this team. He's talking
This
about
team,
2022.
I don't
Randall.
care. Randall's gonna prove you wrong.
What, Joel? Quick
we'll
question. You guys get Mitch. You said you're a playoff lock, top 6 seed, so no
Donovan
play-in.
Mitchell, yes.
Yep. Sorry, Mitchell. Yes.
Absolutely.
I think you should 100%. If you get Donovan Mitchell, you go and you get it. You get it done. I'm kind of sick of this because we've been talking like a month ago. There's reports the deal could get done tonight, and we're a month here later, and now they're re-engaging in talks. I feel like we know what the deal is going to be, who it's centered around. Just a matter of how many first-round picks do you give up. But you get Mitch, you get Donovan Mitchell. I think you're a playoff team, but you still have to look at the teams you potentially have to face in the first round. Those top 3 or 4 seeds, like the Bucks, the Celtics, the Sixers, the Heat. How do you feel? Like that's going to be round 1 matchup.
With Donovan Mitchell, he can win you a playoff series
against those 4 teams.
Yeah,
but you
Who?
saw
one of them. I say Miami. Right now, Miami.
You saw that Dallas series, and what really stood out to me was the way Jalen Brunson earned max money. Well, max, he's worth $20
And
million.
I think also maybe like the Bucks. Maybe if like Khris Middleton gets hurt because he's what makes them contenders. And I
What
don't
are you
think
saying? I was in the middle of something.
You'll not be in the Bucks, bro.
maybe
What I
without
was-
Middleton, right? I think so.
You'll not be in the Bucks.
What I was getting at here is the way Jalen Brunson made Donovan Mitchell look like a turnstile on defense was embarrassing. And so I do think you should mention that while he's an incredibly prolific scorer. That's part of this. And I don't think Donovan Mitchell's number 1. My question for you is, how much are you willing to give up for Donovan Mitchell until we're going too far? And this is turning to Carmelo Anthony 2.0, where our team's not good enough. We invest everything into him.
Everything. Because right now, the
love it.
Knicks are not in the same position that they were in when they traded for Melo. Because we don't have established players that we're trading for Donovan Mitchell.
Everything includes RJ Barrett.
What do you mean?
You said you trade everything for Donovan Mitchell.
Oh.
Everything.
I think he's saying
not
the treasure
RJ.
chest of draft picks and
Like, I'm
Obi
trading-
and
I'm
Grimes.
What's the most you're willing to give up for Donovan Mitchell and just say, okay, maybe we should just hold on to these assets because
I'm trading Grimes. I'm trading Obi. I'm trading quickly. I'm trading our picks. It doesn't matter.
how many picks? You're trading up 3 unprotected, 3 pick
th-
swaps?
3, 4, 5. I don't give a fuck. I'm getting Donovan Mitchell.
Whoa.
Love it.
When we traded for Carmelo, you want to know who we gave up? Danilo Gallinari, who was good at the time. He's better than any of our young players we currently have. That Gallinari was good as hell.
Yeah.
Wilson Chandler was a very good wing who averaged 16 in Denver. Timofey Mozgov, who hadn't developed at the time, but was good. We also gave up our starting point guard at the time, Raymond Felton, for Carmelo, along with picks that one of them ended up being Jamal Murray. Right now, we don't have – the Jazz are not asking for those solidified players in a deal like that.
Do you know who you're
Getting
dealing with?
Mitchell is going to not only make our roster better,
And with the GOAT.
getting
Dealing with the
Mitchell,
GOAT.
They're not dealing with Kevin McHale.
getting
over here.
Donovan Mitchell is not only going to make our roster better, but it's going to make players want to come to New York. So when Giannis is off his contract and he's tired of playing with Khris Middleton, he's coming to the Mecca.
It all wraps together.
Okay, so Danny Ainge is not going to lose a deal, and he's not going to trade Donovan Mitchell for anything less than what he's worth. He's only going to trade him for what the market desires. And basically what he's doing, similar to Rudy Gobert, he's not really holding the Knicks against the wall, making them bid against other teams. He's making you bid against the
yourselves.
Jazz for the Jazz keeping Donovan Mitchell.
They're
You
bidding
know?
against themselves.
Yeah, they basically are, because Danny Ainge is going to have all the leverage here.
So you think
is,
Danny Ainge wants to risk having Donovan Mitchell for this season?
risk having a guy who you think makes a team a playoff lock, right?
Well, the Knicks, not that Jazz current roster. You think Danny Ainge wants to risk having Mitchell on the team, have him win you games, which essentially will take you out the Scoot Henderson, Victor Wembanyama sweepstakes. You think he wants to do that?
Are those guys as proven as Donovan Mitchell, who, hey, look, stars
You're talking
don't
about
come around
the
often
rookies?
in Utah.
No, they're not proven like Mitchell.
Yeah, he makes a team
But
playoff lock like you're saying, so he's pretty valuable to a team like Utah.
The Jazz are obviously in a rebuild, which is why they don't want to take back players that are actually solidified.
Donovan's just 25 years old.
They're not interested in keeping Donovan through this rebuild.
Well, this is how they're going to talk to Knicks, and they're giving up 7 first round
I don't
picks.
If
disagree.
Danny
I don't
Ainge wants to
disagree.
be hard-headed, he can send his ass to Washington or Charlotte because they're also interested. But I guarantee you,
But your
they're
package is
not
going to be
gonna-
better, pause.
Our packages are better,
Yeah.
significantly better, because they're larger.
Wow.
Here's my other question for you, because okay, so
You got to say larger.
I like Donovan Mitchell in New York a lot with Jalen Brunson. But with that undersized backcourt, and again, Randall, who is a questionable fit as a number 3 opposed to a number 1, are they a top 4 contender when you look at those 4 teams aforementioned?
No, we're not.
No.
We're not. I never said we're a top 4 contender, but guess what? players that want to come to New York, the interest now grows because they're saying we want to play with Donovan Mitchell. And I'm fine with trading our young players. I'm fine with trading our picks. Look, if there's a box, throw those motherfuckers in a box. Fill it up. Throw those guys. Fill it up. Large, grande, trade them, and make them eat it up. Because I want them to stop being petty. They need a chance to stop being petty about it.
So
He's doing a great job.
You guys get Mitchell first round exit team?
No, we're going to the second round.
Okay, so you're beating then one of Philadelphia.
You said Miami.
Milwaukee.
You said they can beat Miami.
They can beat Miami.
You did say the Bucks. I'm going to let you take that back if you want.
No, I'm saying if Khris Middleton's not, playing because you said he's had two of the same
If Middleton
injuries.
is out, I think
Yeah,
they
knee
still beat
injuries.
y'all.
Hell no.
I think that'd be an interesting fight. I'm
Took
taking
us to
the
7.
Bucks.
But yeah.
We're a far better team.
I'm
taking
talking
the
about those
Bucks.
teams, but we're fucking up the Hawks, definitely. The Raptors, it's not even a debate.
It is a debate.
We're killing the Raptors.
Raptors
The
got
Raptors
to.
have-
That'd be a
the
fun
Raptors
series.
have a
That'd be a
top
fun
3
series.
head coach and a top
We're
5,
gonna
top
make-
7
we're-
defense and a
we're
bunch
gonna-
of size. Oh, hold up. So you guys,
We're
the
gonna
small.
make
Oh
the-
no, you have the smallest backcourt in the NBA against a team that has.
I said that'd be
it's
a
project
tough
si-
matchup.
It's project
Tough
6'7" versus a bunch of 6'1" guards and RJ Barrett who in the playoffs looked lost as an off-ball player.
Who's guarding
So don't
Donovan
say it's
Mitchell?
not a debate because you know it's a debate. They have a
It's not a
top 5
debate.
head coach and an elite
It's not
defense.
a debate.
What is this guy on?
That
We're
would be a fun
we're
series.
gonna make those motherfucking
I
Raptors go
would,
extinct.
I would take y'all just because I feel like you have Donovan Mitchell, who is a proven elite playoff performer, but it'd be a fun series.
That
Their
we'll win.
size would overwhelm that backcourt.
Doesn't matter, man. Heart over height.
Okay, ask the Blazers how that's gone for them.
They made the Western Conference Finals.
How many games did they win?
Say it once.
They didn't win one, but they made the conference finals.
Okay. And they beat a Nuggets team that was nowhere near what they were going to become. And it really, quite frankly, it was an impressive run. That's
We
it.
have a small backcourt. So does Toronto. Fred VanVleet and Gary Trent isn't one of the biggest backcourts.
Gary Trent 6'5". So
Okay, and Mitchell is he
6'1".
still would cook his ass.
He would
Doesn't
cook his
matter.
ass. He would.
Gary Trent's a pretty good defender.
I know,
It
but
doesn't matter.
It's
he's
Donovan
not,
Mitchell.
He's not. Donovan Mitchell last year wasn't done. He was getting cooked defense. He was the one getting cooked. And here's my
Mitchell's
other
gonna
thing.
give you fucking 30 a night.
I love the theory of the Knicks getting an awesome free agent, but the practicality of it is so unrealistic because when you just look at the stars they've acquired, it's been through trade in Carmelo. I mean, they signed Amari Stoudemire and Julius Randle.
That's because we haven't been an attractive destination.
But you guys, you've been saying this for years. I feel like you were an attractive destination when you got top 3 pick in RJ Barrett. You were an attractive destination with Carmelo Anthony.
Now's our chance.
But what makes this different? Because look, Tom Thibodeau probably played a role in them getting Jalen Brunson. I thought the Brunson move was really good. I love him. But with that being said, there is a very strict limit with this group because Nick Nurse is a top 5 coach. Tom Thibodeau, we've seen what he is. He's not an above average head coach. He's below average. He's
not below average.
Okay, let's go through the coaches in the NBA because he is well below average. It's honestly not even close. Let's do it. Steve Kerr or Tom Thibodeau?
Steve Kerr,
Tyronn Lue or Tom Thibodeau?
Tyronn Lue,
Monty Williams.
Monty Williams,
Rick Carlisle.
Tom Thibodeau. What is Rick Carlisle hasn't won a playoff series in like 10 years.
Has he won a championship?
When's the last time Rick Carlisle's won a playoff series? He hasn't even gotten out the first round.
Has Tom Thibodeau?
Out the first round? Yes, in the last 10 years
When
he
was
has.
last year?
And in Chicago.
Yeah, what year is that?
Nate Robinson, his best player was Nate
I was
Robinson.
in
He got out the
elementary
first
school.
round.
I would say Nate Robinson.
I was this tall when he did that. Okay.
Yeah, you're the
Now
same
let's
height
keep
as
moving
Nate,
on.
probably.
Mike Budenholzer.
Mike Budenholzer,
Quinn Snyder.
Quinn Snyder,
Greg Popovich.
Greg Popovich,
Okay, Nick Nurse.
Nick Nurse,
Eric Spoelstra.
Spoelstra,
Michael Malone.
Mike Malone,
Ime Udoka.
Ime,
Frank Vogel.
Tom Thibodeau.
Billy Donovan.
That's close. I'm going to go with Tom Thibodeau.
Chris Finch.
Right? Chris Finch, I'm going to lean him.
Willie Green.
Tom Thibodeau.
We just saw Willie Green take a team that didn't have Zion Williamson to nearly they took him to the playoffs. They almost beat a number 1 seed in round 1. Yes, Devin Booker was hurt, but even still, Willie Green had an impressive first season. He's shown a lot of upside. I would much rather have Willie Green based off of what he can be. Players love that guy.
How many
All-Stars?
How many All-Stars do the Pelicans have?
2.
Right? How many do the Knicks have?
Well, according to you, they have an All-NBA player, which is greater than
Well,
2 All-Stars.
in the bubble, well, in the isolated season, yes. How come Willie
Can we
Green?
continue this list, by the way?
Oh, hold up. How come Willie Green gets put over Tom Thibodeau off of a play-in run where they made the playoffs, even though they were the 10th seed, right? I think they were the 10th seed heading in. But Tom Thibodeau doesn't get credit for taking a Knicks roster that should have never been in the playoffs in the first place to the 4th seed.
And you want to know what that
both
did?
had
That
the 1
limited
year.
your ceiling. New York, the expectation in the basketball mecca, it shouldn't be first-round exits. What it should be is championships.
We weren't expecting to make the playoffs that year.
But
this Knicks team isn't championship
to become a contender, you need to get top draft picks, and you need to push your cards to get game-changing young talent.
What would Tom Thibodeau do with that Pelicans team? That Pelicans roster is really good.
It wasn't. They started year 3-16.
But right now, with the roster right now,
what Willie Green showed, he got Brandon Ingram to buy in as the leader, as one of the best defenders in that team. Then not only that, he got development from young players like Jackson Hayes, Jose Alvarado, Herb Jones, a little bit of Trey Murphy. Players love that guy.
Who's to say Herb Jones with Tom Thibodeau wouldn't have been phenomenal?
He would have probably
I think
done
he
well
would
in
have
the
been pretty
system.
good, but how about
Are we forgetting Jimmy? Did he not develop Jimmy Butler?
That was a decade ago. And then Jimmy Butler basically ran him out of Minnesota.
12 years ago was not a 12 years ago was a decade. That was not a decade ago.
I said a decade ago, 10 years. 2012. And here's the thing, Jimmy Butler was also the one who turned him upside down in Minnesota. I mean, he brings in Jimmy Butler, and then Jimmy Butler flips his world literally upside down.
They were a top 5 seed before he got hurt in Minnesota.
They weren't. They were an 8 seed, and they got knocked down in the first round. So
by Houston, who made the conference finals and took the Warriors to 7.
Let's continue this list. Jason Kidd or Tom Thibodeau?
That's close. I'll lean Jason Kidd, though.
That's 15 coaches right there.
Oof.
But
there's more. JB Bickerstaff.
Tom Thibodeau.
Mike Brown.
Tom Thibodeau.
All right.
It's valid.
I would take, basically, for me, I have Tom Thibodeau.
You really like unproven guys who have upside. Oh, JB Bickerstaff. Look what he did with Cleveland. He's going to do so much better next year. I'm taking him.
Tom Thibodeau, this is his 3rd go-around.
Willie Green has one fucking run. Oh, he's better than Tom Thibodeau.
Tibbs has the history behind him. He's proven it before. Like, not the ceiling, sure, but these other guys who haven't done shit.
But
I understand why you're taking Tibbs over that.
Tom Thibodeau was bad last season.
Also,
he's stubborn
and
as
also,
ways.
He is.
He's not adaptive.
He's very
he
old
runs
school.
his players
He's
into
very,
the ground.
yeah, very old school.
And while he's old school, he doesn't actually have the franchise's best interest.
How about what a better question would be, because Mike Malone, that's a good coach. You probably think he clears Tom Thibodeau. What happens if they switch places? If Thibodeau's in Denver and Mike Malone's in New York, are the Knicks making the playoffs?
I don't think Michael Malone clears Tom Thibodeau because Michael Malone was not very good last year in Denver. So, yeah, I think Malone's a little bit better. I prefer him, yeah.
And just because there might be 14, 15 coaches that you prefer over Tom Thibodeau.
Well, you have 15 you prefer. You say top 15
does not mean that he's not a great head coach.
Great. You know what great means,
because
right?
Semantics.
Because
let's do it.
Honestly, being a great head coach is really a year-to-year thing.
Let's do a poll for TikTok or something. Is Tom Thibodeau a great head coach? Because I just named 15 head coaches I would much rather have.
I would think a coach of the year would be that.
And is Dwayne
multiple-time coach of the year?
Is Dwayne Casey a great head coach?
He was in Toronto. Absolutely.
He's a great head coach.
But then he got fired.
Yeah.
After winning coach of the year, nonetheless.
Yeah.
Wait, are the Pistons not trending up right now?
Yeah.
Who's gonna be the person?
They have top tier talent from high draft picks.
They do.
That's not.
What do you think Dwayne Casey's gonna do with that talent in Detroit?
I'm not trying to disrespect
I will
Dwayne
guarantee
Casey,
they'll be a playoff
guy.
contender sooner rather than later, with Dwayne Casey head coaching that team.
I just think you're.
They got Kate. You know what I'm saying? Like they got the number 1 overall pick.
I think you're off.
Ultimately, you can be a great coach.
Saying Tom Thibodeau's a great head coach.
You can be a great. You can be a great coach, but you need the talent. Greg Popovich is the greatest coach of all fucking time in NBA. He hasn't done shit in the past couple of years. Why? Because the roster isn't there.
He was stubborn in his ways. He hasn't done nothing. He's stubborn in his ways.
Because he didn't want to work with Kawhi.
He didn't want to rebuild. What did the Knicks want to do? They didn't want to rebuild. They got a first round.
His first problem, he didn't want to work with Kawhi.
Yeah, does that dicey?
Wait, so
like if he was a player's coach, like let's make it work. You still have Kawhi. The Spurs team looks a lot different.
To be fair, Greg Popovich did kind of modernize load management for a guy like Kawhi too.
Despite Greg Popovich not doing nothing in the past couple of years within his team, he's still a great coach, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he's the greatest coach
because he has championships. I understand that. You need the roster too. Tom Thibodeau, New York, he's at 2 seasons. The first season, we overachieved. The second season, we came back down to earth. Now this is a make or break year.
The reason why Greg Popovich, what I'm trying to say is, the reason why he hasn't done nothing with talent.
He made the playoffs with the Bulls with DJ Augustine starting.
He's not letting me speak. The reason why Greg Popovich has done nothing is because he didn't do what was best for the organization. That was to rebuild 3 years ago and go out and get a top-end pick in the draft multiple years in a row instead of settling for a Josh Primo who's not a great prospect. And now they're realizing, oh, wait, we're a couple years late to this thing. Now we've delayed an inevitable rebuild. The Knicks are delaying an inevitable rebuild. If you want RJ to fully grow, he has to take the keys as a main guy. I like the Jalen Brunson move. I think he fits well. But with Tom Thibodeau, there isn't much upside. And beyond that, he's stubborn. He's not going to help you do what's best for the organization, which was missing the playoffs in 2020. So you can get a Cade Cunningham who makes you a contender, like you just said, with Dwayne Casey. And then, along for RJ Barrett, you don't sign Jalen Brunson with Cade Cunningham. But if you have a backcourt of Cade and RJ, according to you're set for contention, like you just said.
Nick Nurse, I didn't say contention. I said playoff.
You said that the Pistons are trending toward contention with Dwayne Casey because of Cade
No,
Cunningham.
I didn't. I said playoff contenders.
Playoff contenders, yeah.
Yeah, so they're making the playoffs. They're gonna be contending to make the playoffs.
Play-ins, yeah.
A contender for the playoffs, a team that could make the playoffs. A playoff contender is a team that can win a championship.
Okay, yeah.
I know what I meant.
You know what I meant. We know the Pistons aren't
ultimately.
Well,
he's over here telling me Tom Thibodeau is a great head coach. I don't know what he's trying to get at.
We lost the semantics. He's a good head coach.
He's not really good. I think head coaches are as good as they have ever been, and there's 20 of them I wouldn't mind having.
So does that mean that Tom Thibodeau's not great, or does that mean that the coaches are just in abundance right now that are great?
He's not great. He was running guys into the ground in Chicago.
So what do you make about the year they had the number 4 seed? What's the reason?
Because he went all in on pushing the chips of a team that was fine in a year where they suffered no injuries, no COVID protocol. Julius played all 72 games, and let's be honest, he had a career year. It wasn't really replicable.
So trading for Derrick Rose, which was his decision, had nothing to do with it, which was his
That
call.
was a big pickup.
His call.
Now, what are you doing with Derrick Rose because you're trying to develop Emmanuel quickly?
Well,
How does that work?
Weird. It's a weird fit.
Well, it's going to work.
Yeah.
I know it's going to work.
It's going to work.
Now
if you trade quickly.
Because now Emmanuel quickly is going to be off to Utah when we get Donovan Mitchell. Now, let me ask you, does Tom Thibodeau make the playoffs with a roster of Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent, OG Anunoby, and Pascal Siakam?
He would run them in the ground just like Nick Nurse is. That's a good question.
Oh, so when Thibodeau does it, it's a bad thing, but Nick Nurse running them to the ground, it's fine.
But out of necessity. So I'm thinking to myself, that's Nick Nurse's only fault as a head coach. What I'm saying here is
his only fault?
Nick Nurse is amazing at developing talent. I looked at Precious Achiuwa last year. He developed a little bit of Chris Boucher, though he wouldn't necessarily play him. And then Gary Trent, Fred VanVleet. I don't think Tibbs is developing
Gary Trent was good in Portland.
Scotty. But he didn't fully take off.
Because he wasn't in Portland for long. He was there for his rookie season and got traded.
And then he took another step up.
He was gonna take off in Portland regardless, though.
And they took another step up in a better fit in Toronto.
So we're saying Nick Nurse developed Gary Trent. He
developed Precious Achiuwa into like a guy that's knocking down transition 3-pointers like he's Kevin Durant. I'm like, is this dude a sharpshooter? And then I look at Fred VanVleet, Scotty Barnes, like you said. All of those guys are developing, and I look at RJ. He's really just developing because they're saying.
What about IQ? Has he developed or no?
No, he stepped back. He regressed in year 2. He wasn't making shots. That's really
What about IQ. Quentin Grimes' his rookie year? He was pretty good.
Yeah, he's pretty good.
No credit to Tom Thibodeau.
Tibbs wouldn't play him. Tibbs did not play him until he had to out of necessity because of COVID. You realize
that's his fault as a coach.
Yeah, but it was really just. All right, everyone's hurt. Just give him the keys, and he shot.
Julius Randle was healthy.
He averaged 24 a game shooting.
What do
40.
you mean?
He barely shot 40%. Yeah, he was impressive.
RJ's developed. We've seen over the year, from year 1 RJ to what we saw last season.
But I wouldn't credit that to Tibbs. I would credit that to opportunity and a very good talent.
Oh, wow. So with Nurse,
you can't pick and choose.
I do pick and choose.
You can't do that, bro. We know RJ's been developing.
I look at Toronto's
Wait, Joe, before you go. So is Tom Thibodeau the reason RJ misses layups at the basket? It's his fault?
No.
Okay. So
he's also a player that was running RJ Barrett into the ground in his second season as well at the same time.
What do you mean running him to the ground?
And he was just relegating him to a corner 3-point shooter role. If you had the best interest of RJ Barrett in mind, he wouldn't be a corner shooter in his second season. He would have a lead role on the offense, so he can get some of those growing pains out early. You're not going to be very good with the second-year RJ Barrett, and that's okay.
Well,
you're supposed to be a rebuilding team because you just had the 3rd overall pick the year before.
To his defense, they were winning.
Bro.
Yeah, but they didn't go
This
in
is
the
so
playoffs.
fucking funny. What
they weren't going anywhere in the playoffs.
So listen, Joe, let me ask you this.
But for the Knicks, a 4 seed is a huge win.
If this is the basketball mecca, are we settling for a first-round exit?
I don't disagree,
title?
but the Knicks have been one of the most inconsistent teams in the league.
Bro. You're talking about a title when we went into that season not even thinking we were going to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
But how do you get to a title, Joel?
Making the playoffs.
You don't go from no playoffs to
But here's what I'm asking. How do you make the playoffs? What are the steps?
Bastards.
What do you have to do? What are the steps? What are the
this is
building
funny.
blocks?
Joel, because he said something that was really fucking dumb that I want to now reiterate to you because I want to give you these scenarios. Right. You criticized Tom Thibodeau for relegating RJ to a spot-up shooter role, right? And that wasn't properly developing, although the team was winning. So would a great coach make the team lose in favor of developing your third overall pick, or keep doing what's making the team win, and the third overall pick now relegated to a role that's helping the team win games?
You got to win. I know long term it's probably not in the best interest of RJ, but for that specific season, when the Knicks have been the laughing stock of the league, for them to get to a 4 seed is a huge win for them.
So here's what we're going to do. We're going to look at the top contenders from each conference.
Why?
Because you like the Miami Heat, they were the one team that didn't have a bunch of lottery picks to build a contender. The Boston Celtics, what do? They bottom out, got Marcus Smart, and then they trade veterans who are not going to take them anything past the first round. And guess what that became? Jalen Brown, and then a pick that would become Jason Tatum, a top 10 player.
You're asking Tom Thibodeau to be the GM. He's not the GM of this team.
But the direction that you go in hiring Tom Thibodeau, who's an older coach that wants to win now, is we're going with Tom Thibodeau. This is his squad. We're going to design it for him.
When we hired Tom Thibodeau, Leon Rose was the one that made the hire. Leon Rose's vision in New York was to do exactly what we're doing now in trying to get a star like Donovan Mitchell. Why do you think we're in the
acquired the
sweepstakes?
pieces, and they have the picks to go out and get a superstar. You have to give them that.
Because
you can build through the draft, but you could also go and get that superstar player via trade. That's what the Celtics did when they got KG.
You're a basketball
But
historian.
they already had.
They had Pierce, and they traded for Wright. Like, it happened the same way.
John,
global franchise to move Kevin Garnett for not much.
John.
But the Knicks are a global franchise, too.
Yeah, they are the global franchise. They're not the ones screwing over the global franchise.
John, you're a basketball historian. Where were the Knicks in 2017? What did we have? Did we have any assets?
Shit. 2017?
You had Kristaps Porzingis.
Facts.
Did we have any assets, though, outside of him?
Dennis Smith Jr.
Right.
Tim Hardaway Jr., was he on the team or was he in Atlanta?
I think he might have been in Atlanta.
He was probably in Atlanta. Let me pull it up.
So we've went from having no assets, no cap money, to now having salary, having 8 first-round picks
That's pretty
that
solid.
are tradable,
And most of those
and
lottery
most
protected.
young players. What players that we've drafted late include Emmanuel Quickley, who's a very good player, Quentin Grimes, who was late first round. We've done a good job drafting too.
Yeah, so
Jericho Sims is a good backup.
So now imagine.
So how is this? What are we talking
impressive.
about here?
So now imagine if you give yourself a bigger bite at the apple.
By doing what?
By getting a top 3 pick. That's how Memphis got John Morant and Jaren Jackson Jr.
So
Warriors
forcing us to tank
by being bad for a long time.
So you want us to tank?
Yes, that's what the Knicks
Your
should have done all
roster's
along.
too good now to tank. We're way past
what
this.
I'm saying is, you gotta understand this.
So you want Tom Thibodeau to tank?
There's
And
2 different
hiring
arguments
Tom
here,
Thibodeau,
though.
So in hiring Tom Thibodeau as a coach, your direction becomes win
now.
But when you're supposed to,
I know what he's doing. He wants Tom Thibodeau to tank to then be like, oh look, Tom Thibodeau, he's such an ass coach. He won 20 fucking games.
No, what I'm saying is you don't hire Tom Thibodeau. You hire a younger coach who he can grow. You look at what a team like Memphis did.
But that's a different argument. You should have never hired Tom Thibodeau. Now he is the coach.
Yes.
This is the team.
But
what
hold
is he?
up.
But the limitations with him is his style. What type of coach is this guy? Is he a player development? Is you win now? Is he even like, I look at Rick Carlisle. Rick Carlisle is a brilliant playoff coach, one of the best in the NBA. Tyronn Lue is a brilliant
playoff coach that hasn't gotten out the first round in how many years?
Well, to be fair, in those 2 years, he went up against the Clippers, and they had 2 top 10 players.
If it's not for
And
Dirk
they
going
went deep in those
and
series.
if it's not
6, 7
they took-
games.
and here's
if
the
it's not for
thing, they
Dirk
went to
going on a
Game 7
historically
in both
great
of
run,
those.
Rick Carlisle does not have a championship title. Dirk Nowitzki fucking backpacked his fraud ass.
I love Dirk.
What are we talking about?
It was a great
He
finals
called
run.
a top 5 coach fraud. Okay, that's
Rick Carlisle's a top 5 coach?
Yeah, he was an amazing.
That's stupid,
coach.
bro. That's ridiculous.
Is Rick
In
Carlisle a top
2022?
5 head coach? No, not 2022. I'm talking 2015, 2016.
No, right now.
2011.
I'll say right
We're
now.
talking about right
Yeah,
now.
I don't give a fuck about 8 years ago.
Right now,
Tom
he's top
Thibodeau was
12.
a top coach at that time. What are we talking
I
about?
wouldn't go that far.
This guy is ridiculous. We're going to end off the show, though. This is going to do it for episode 203.
A lot of debates, a ton.
Of the Pick
actually.
Aside Podcast. You guys can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Pick Aside Podcast and on Twitter at Pick Aside Pod. Thank you guys for listening, and I'll see you next time.